Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this amazing Black Friday weekend. Hope everyone had a good weekend. I know it was almost like on my end, it was like a little bit of do I want to do this or not? Especially since I just got back from a little bit of a family function. And then this guy, he messages me, he's like, yo, what's the topic for tonight's live stream? I'm like, okay, well, fine. You just invited yourself on. So, Aaron, thank you for joining me on this Sunday evening.
You got to give the crowd what they want.
Yes, and they somehow like you for some reason. I don't know why it is. Now, because
keep it real.
Well, so I got to ask you, how was your wedding to your second wife? Apparently, I got a text message about that.
That was just to help you be patient and understanding.
I know. So, Anarchy Outdoors is running for awesome Black Friday sales, and I needed another bipod, and this gentleman had it, and he was planning on hooking us up with a special discount. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Is it going to be there? I want to give you my money. And basically, his excuse was he was getting married to his second wife. And for some reason, he didn't answer my questions if she was hot or not.
Oh, I answered it. I said it doesn't matter. She makes money. That's what
Nice.
I said. You didn't read that. You got to go back and look at your message.
I will pay attention to your polygamist comments in a little bit more detail in the next episode. All right. So,
figure out why my camera looks so blurry.
You look really, really good. But in any case, thank you everybody for joining us. I really sincerely hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving day with their families. Hopefully you got a little bit of Black Friday shopping in. And that's actually kind of like the topic for today's live stream. And we are going to be joined by another special guest. I'm going to bring him on in a little bit to discuss my own personal experience shopping this Black Friday. A couple of household items. We are streaming to multiple platforms. We're streaming to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We are also streaming to Rumble and Odyssey, which I will try to check. Unfortunately, we don't get the comments imported into this platform right in here, but I will try to check on those. And thank you guys for everybody who's joining from those. Number two, thank you all of the pre-orders for our awesome, amazing glow-in-the-dark patches have shipped out. So everyone who's ordered, thank you very much. I know many of you have already received them. So if you those that have received them, do go on and leave a review. That definitely does help. If you want to purchase your own patches, you can do so right from the website, luxgun.com. These are about 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches, and they do glow in the dark, which is freaking cool. They do come with Velcro on the back, so they're going to be ready to stick onto your patch wall, your bags, jackets, things like that. A little too big for hats, but they are here, and perhaps we'll give some away on this live stream for some super awesome questions or super chats, things like that. Number two, actually, I'm about halfway out. So also on the website, I did put up a number of open box Sunway photo shooting tripods. So there are 4 left. About half of them are gone. So I did mark those down for a fairly good price as well. So you have, I believe, 3 TL 3240s left on there, and then 1 2830 CS. Once again, we do have a little bit of a discount on those as well. So I'm sure you guys will love those. If you are shopping, so you bought your Ruger, your Savage, and you are shopping for some accessories, do check our friends over at Anarchy Outdoors, and you can use that link. That does definitely help the channel out, and channel members do get a little bit of a discount to Anarchy Outdoors as well. So that is going to be your source for everything precision rifles. And more. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, well, you can talk to that guy and you can complain to him right there on the spot. And
I will answer all questions.
He does answer all the questions, especially around his products. But they are really, really solid products. And that's actually kind of like the topic for today. So any almost every year. And so this channel is going to be approaching 4 or 5 years in March. I forget which one. But every year, right around the fall, there's two things that are constant. The first thing is that the views on Savage videos like go through the roof. They automatically pick up again, once again and again. And the second one is I'm always asked, hey, when you're going to finish your series with the Savage Access. So I will answer the second question first, and then we'll go on to the first. So when I released the Savage Access video, so I bought it for a Black Friday special, much like we have a Cabela special every year. And I just basically decided, well, how good can a $269 rifle actually be? That includes a scope. And we want to see if we can stretch it out to 1,000 yards. So the range that I started filming it on, was supposed to be an 800-yard range. And then after I bought the rifle and immediately after I joined, that range had issues with neighbors, and that range basically was shut down and became a 200-yard range. By the time I found another range where I currently shoot that I have access to 750, honestly, there's just like more guns and stuff that popped up, but I did have videos filmed where we did take that Savage stock with that crappy scope that comes with it. We did get hits out at 750 yards. I do have it filmed. For some reason, it wasn't up to my quality standards for a video, but I will throw it up there so you guys can see it. And we will actually go out and replicate it and try to actually see what type of upgrades we can do. And if there's enough interest, I know Savage actually makes the Axis in 6 arc. Might do something with that as well. So we'll definitely do that. But Aaron, so here's a question for you. And this is one of the reasons why I was really glad to have you come on. Right now, almost every Black Friday, no matter almost the store that you go to, any of the big box stores such as Cabelas or Sportsman's Warehouse, their biggest Black Friday sales are going to be either a Savage Access or a Savage 110. I know right now they have the Apex Hunter 110. Sportsman's Warehouse has the Switchback 110, which is basically a Savage Access. I'm sorry, it's a Savage 110 tactical, but in a regular stock. So it's a heavier contoured barrel in a regular stock. So the question is, the prices are great on them. Should somebody actually buy one of those rifles? And is there a path to upgrading those rifles, or should they just skip all of that, start pinching their pennies, and ultimately get a higher end custom gun?
That is a loaded question. So
Okay,
let's break it down. Let's break it down into
right.
a couple different questions.
Okay.
What is the purpose of your your Black Friday shopping, right? Are you the guy that lives to buy the $400 deal?
Well, I'm just a Jew and I like a good deal.
I think Mormons are just as tight-wadded.
Okay.
So we have a lot of similarities in our cultures, I think. So it goes back to the question of what's the purpose? What's the intent? Are you trying to pick up a new caliber or something cheaper, trying to try something different? Or can you just not resist that, $399 or whatever the price is? I haven't been in a Cabelas in a very long time.
Okay, fine. I'll give you the answer. So this year, the main sale that they're running was the Savage Axis 1 with the old trigger in their Strata finish.
Okay, yeah, I pulled it up. So for $359?
It should be like the Black Friday special was, I believe it was like $339 minus the rebate, so it was $299 after rebate.
Okay, I see. I clicked on it. It pulls it up. What's on top of it?
It's a cheapy Bushnell 3-9 that
okay
feels like mush, but it's functional at 100 yards.
Okay, so this is how I break this down, right? The question is what's the intent? What's the purchase? Oh, I just want to have a 6.5 Creedmoor in my safe, right? Hey, I want to have a 300 Blackout in my safe. I want to have whatever the caliber is, right? And I'm going to go take it to the range and I'm going to shoot 40 rounds every year. Perfect. Go buy it. Go buy it. It's perfect, right? It's a perfect gun for you, right? You're going to go to the range 2 or 3 times. You're going to take your buddies out, show them your new cool rifle. They're all going to think it's awesome. You're going to shoot 2 boxes of shells, and then it's going to go back in the safe, and they're never going to use it again, right? Now, if you're looking for what I call a donor action or a donor rifle to a project where you're going to take it and create something different out of it, right? So this Savage Axis is a good example. What caliber is this in?
So I think they have them available in everything.
So you can get it in 223, 243, 270, 30-06, 308, 350 Legend, 6.5 Creedmoor, and 7mm 08. So like, I think it'd be fun to play with a 350 Legend. Do I have any need to ever own a 350 Legend? No, I don't live in the Midwest and I don't hunt whitetails very often. But if I wanted to play with the caliber, this is a great way to do it. 300 or 299 with the rebate. Let's be honest. How many of you are going to send in the rebate? Me, I probably won't send it in. So it cost me $339.
I sent my rebate in, and 3 years later, I actually still didn't get that.
Exactly. I mean,
it still says processing.
It's a gimmick. Rebates are gimmicks. Anyways, that's a whole nother topic for a different show. But so what are you doing with the rifle, right? Are you going to put it in your safe? You're going to try a new caliber? I think it's a great way to try a new caliber, right? So, and especially with the Savage, there's a great there's great aftermarket support. There's aftermarket barrels. There's all sorts of stuff. So for me, a deal like this, if I'm looking for a donor action, I'll go and pick something up like this, right? Like either I want a new caliber or I'm going to turn it into something different. Okay. Maybe I'm buying it just for the 223 bolt face, right? So I get this question quite a bit, like, hey, how do I get a different size bolt face for like a Ruger American, or can I convert my 6.5 Ruger into a 223? And I'm like, okay, go buy a Ruger American 223 and use its bolt, right? Like,
interesting. Okay.
Anyways.
So that's actually never crossed my mind, because I mean, just even like, so 2 things I'm taking out of it. So number one, it never, like for somebody who literally just wants to play with a new caliber, I mean, it definitely would make sense if you just want to experience the caliber before deciding whether you want to get it in a real rifle. But from the parts availability, because let's say, for example, if you did want to, let's say, switch your barrel out to something else, or you do want to play with a different one, yeah, that would totally make sense. Well, actually, the other one that truly, where this like things are lighting up, the CZ600. So in the video series when we were discussing it, so the CZ600 Alpha, which is the cheap model, is available in all the different calibers. However, if you want to go get the range model or the hunting one, it's only available in very small variety of calibers. So if you want to switch out the bolt phase, yeah, you could do that. That's interesting.
Now on the Rugers, you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt, because they're serialized. They're matched together a little bit. But if you're going to get a custom barrel or whatever, you can have the work done right by Smith to make sure everything lines up correctly. But yeah, I mean, it's a great gateway, right? Say you want to buy your 12-year-old his own hunting rifle. Well, here you go. Throw away the crappy scope and put a real scope on top of it, and you have a decent gun. Like, you have a decent gun, right? So I have several friends where he'll show up with a new gun. He's like, man, I want to try 300 blackout and a bolt gun. So I bought a $400 Ruger American. Now I'm in your shop for a couple parts, right? Which is a great thing, right? I mean, that guy has $10,000 custom rifles, but he's trying something new on a cheaper, on a cheaper gun. You can try things out. So I would never knock someone for going and buying this. Now, if you go and buy this and you don't shoot it for a year, then I'll probably make fun of you. But no, like, I think the specials they're great, right? And if it fits if it fits what you're looking to accomplish, go for it, right? So there's a lot of different paths. if you, they don't really do Black Friday deals on like Tikkas, but like Tikkas,
Okay.
people
Yep.
go and buy Tikkas for donor actions, right? Because Tikka has been behind the game for a long time about barrel weights and different options. So if you can go buy their cheap T3X with a pencil barrel on it, Tikka makes one of the best actions available. So you can take that action and turn it into a very, very good gun by throwing an aftermarket barrel on it. And one of my buddies, who's a gunsmith, in the corner of his shop, he has a pile of hundreds of Tikka, brand new Tikka barrels. Like,
Interesting.
yep, enough that we were thinking about building a fence out of them,
Okay.
like a handrail,
Here's
out of them.
here's the question for you though. You were talking about, let's say, for example, Tikas, and they definitely are going to be fairly smooth actions. I would say throw CZ into that. The CZ 600 actions are nice. I know a bunch of people do that with the, the 457s, when they're just going to buy a regular 457 and then upgrade the barrels on that. But your typical Cabelas specials or your Black Friday specials are going to be a Savage Axis, a Savage 110, or a Ruger American. Are people, I mean, should they even be looking at aftermarket barrels for those? Or I mean, like, if you're gonna go through the hassle of swapping out a barrel, getting it headspace, getting it installed, shouldn't you just already start with a better action to begin with?
Again, it goes back to the person buying it and to the use case.
Okay.
Typically, if I'm buying a rifle to try a new caliber, I'm not worried about swapping barrels and different things.
Okay.
If I'm hunting a really good deal, then I'll hunt a donor action or different things. But we're talking the guy that's going to buy. Maybe you're just getting into long range shooting. Maybe you've owned guns your whole life.
Okay.
And you're just getting into it, and you see that pop up, and you're like, "Dang, man, that's a great gateway gun or whatever." Right? Like, I'm not gonna knock you. Go buy it. Right? Most of them shoot really well. Sub MOA, right? So 1 inch, and go do your thing, right? But if you want to get serious into the sport, I would do exactly what you said. I would say, hey, save up to buy a Tikka CTR or a Bagara B14.
Okay.
That's where I would start. If you want to get like serious about precision rifle shooting and taking your marksmanship to the next level where you're starting to learn the actual fundamentals and the techniques, then you need a rifle that's capable of growing with you, right? A rifle that's capable of performing, but performing better as you get better, right? So the rifle performs the same, but your ability to use the rifle to perform gets better.
Okay.
Right. So,
all right. So what price points are we talking about? So, I mean, typically I would say, okay, we have on the low end, we're going to have like our Black Friday special. Let's call it a $300 gun. Or let's say you walk into your local FFL and you find something that's going to be used for $200 to $350 or something along those lines. That might be like a used Ruger American. Could be, let's say, an older Remington 700, something along those lines. And then when we're talking, I guess, like, so I know when I visited Anarchy Outdoors back in Utah, and like we were doing the spread, and then you hand me your 122, which is like a $6,000 gun or something like that. Is that generally what your custom guns are going to cost? And then it's like, what the room in between, is there basically space? And should somebody, let's say, for example, buy a custom shop Ruger Precision or a Savage Elite Precision, or perhaps start with that Savage 110 and then upgrade that themselves as time and funds allow?
that's an interesting concept. So I grabbed a piece of paper to throw down.
Okay. And
a
while
couple
he's
different things.
and while he's doing that, I do have Rumble on my phone, so I know there's a bunch of people watching on Rumble. So leave your questions. I will make sure we do answer those as well.
So I would probably tier this into the four. And my pen's not working, but I'd tier it into $400 to $600 range, and then
Okay.
I'd go $600, maybe $600 to $800. Sorry, $400 to $800, and then I'd go $800 to like $1,250, And then I'd go say 1250 to 5K, right?
Okay.
So those are the tiers we're talking about. And the more I think about this subject, the more lines pop into my head. Okay, so let's talk $400 to $800, right, on a rifle. I'm just getting into the sport. I walk into a store. Number one, you're going to get terrible advice at Cabela's, Bass Pro, any of the big stores, right? It's just the guys behind the counters don't know what they're talking about. So watch the stream with Slav, and we'll walk you through and give you the questions you have to ask when you get to Cabelas.
We're probably the wrong people because then, like, we're going to encourage people to spend more money than they need to.
Well, if you want to spend money, come visit me. I'll take all the money you want to give me. So, I actually had one of my buddies post on one of my comments on Facebook. He's a great guy. There's a bunch of like for sale optic groups and things on Facebook, and they're always vouching for people. He's like, I vouch for that guy, but he's a rotten scoundrel because he takes all my money. But anyways, that's a tangent. So in the $400 to $800 range, what do we have? We have the Savage.
400 to 800. You have like a ton
we
of
got the
options.
Savage. Is the 110 in that price range?
Yes, absolutely. So you can get to, like,
I
you can
would
get,
skip
like,
the Axis. We're skipping the Axis. We're going 110 only.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah. So
we're going Savage 110.
I would say the best bang for the buck for the 110 is the Sportsman's Warehouse Special, which is the switchback model. So the Savage switchback is going to be a heavier contoured barrel with the 110 action. Comes fretted, comes with a muzzle brake, comes with an oversized handle and a bolt knob. But the only thing is, it just basically comes in a cheap stock, which I think is a throwaway to begin with. So I think overall is just a very good value all around for a 110.
I think so too.
Howa 1500.
I would stay away from the Howa, and we'll talk about why.
Ooh, we're gonna discuss that. Okay, CZ 600.
But I'd stay away from it too. Are they even that popular?
No, but they're not. But I think, like, now that the price has dropped on them, I think they're an incredible value.
I need to go.
Aaron, you're
that's true.
Up.
If you're not worried about the change barrel, you're just buying it for what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a Remington footprint,
Ruger
right?
American, obviously.
So the CZ's a Remington footprint.
No, it's not.
Right?
It's all custom.
Oh, then yeah, it's not on the list. It's off the list. Okay, so we got Savage, Ruger American. Who's the other one?
Well, I mean, the Patriots. Okay. The Patriots are kind of junky.
Now we're gonna stick.
EVA
this
Cascade.
Is someone who wants. Yeah. We're gonna stick with Savage and Ruger in the 400 to 800 range. Okay, Ruger American Predator, right? The Predator.
Yes.
The goal is to take our marksmanship to the next level, right? Okay. So I want to do this with a Cabela special, right? With a Savage 110 or a Ruger American Predator, right? Okay. So those are the two rifles in the $400 to $800 range, and here's the reason why. The Savage 110 and the Ruger American Predator have awesome aftermarket support.
Okay.
In barrels, in chassis, in triggers, in everything. Right? So you're going to walk into the store and you're going to buy a Ruger American or a Savage 110. You're going to take to the range. You're going to shoot through boxes, through it. You're going to be like, man, this gun's nice, but it's got some problems. You're going to get on Slav's live stream and you're going to be like, oh, I need a stock and a trigger and a better scope. Anyways, there's a path to upgrade the gun, right?
The gun and I will say, so the videos that we've done on those, they're some of the best performing videos. So the video that we did at Anarchy Outdoors, the upgrades for Ruger precision rifles, the upgrades for the Tikas, those have like amazing views. I mean, like, I think a couple of them have like over 100,000 views. And the videos we did, like, hey, taking a stock Ruger American and I think just basically making it almost look like it's a custom gun, which is pretty insane. And you're right. I mean, that they shoot both that 110 and the Ruger American will shoot sub MOA out of the box as factory as they come.
Yeah, I can't believe how well the Ruger Americans shoot. Like, especially if you get like a caliber that has good ammo behind it. Now the 30 haters are going to hate me for this, but The issue with 308 is there's not a standard for 308.
Correct.
There are slight variations in all of the reamers and all of the stuff. What makes 6.5 Creedmoor or what makes it so successful is all the ammo is built to the same standard. All the chambers are built to the same standard. 308 kind of goes up and down a little bit with 7.62 by 51 NATO being able to shoot that out of a US 308 chamber and different things, right? So you get some skew, some tolerance changes and different things. But that being said, so for the $400 to $800 range, we're gonna take a Savage 110, we're gonna take a Ruger American, we're gonna take it to the range, we're gonna shoot it, and we're gonna decide what we don't like about it. Ruger American, I hate the trigger. It's got a blade in it. So does the Savage. I hate bladed triggers. Triggers are gone. Okay, so you're looking at probably Timneys for both of those. I think that's the only aftermarket trigger for those. And then next thing is a stock, right? Those skinny little throwaway stocks, right? So we go KRG Bravo, right? KRG Bravo.
Sharps. Well,
Sharps.
On the Ruger, there's a bunch of MDT chassis, the Wooks chassis.
Yeah, you got Wooks, MD, it's got aftermarket support, right?
Yep.
You got some of the small chassis companies. You've got MDT. You got Wooks. You've got Sharps. Am I missing anyone?
Well, you can go to Boyd's and get Boyd's to get you.
Oh yeah, you can go to Boyd's at one stock. I think they're starting to make bottom metals for like Bell and Carlson has a bottom metal. Mm-hmm. Anyways, there is aftermarket support for these guns, so you can go grab a $400 to $800 rifle. Mm-hmm. You can then spend another $1,000 bringing it up to where you want it. Okay, that's like you buy a $400 stock, you buy a $200 trigger, you buy a let's say $500 optic or less.
Yep,
you're right at $1,000, right? To bring it up to what I would say is a very well performing gun for its class. Yep. Now, are you going to shoot quarter MOA groups? Are you going to? Is it going to perform? Is it going to be as smooth? Is it going to There's some nuances to why custom rifles cost as much as they do, but you can get started, right? So let's go to the second category. I just changed the price range from $800 to $1,500.
Okay.
Because I wanted to sneak the Ruger custom shop, and I wanted to sneak the 110 Elite in there, and I wanted to sneak the Tikka TAC A1. Is that what it is?
Okay. Well, you can probably get the Sig Cross in there as well then.
Yeah, we can stick the Sig Cross in there too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I wanted to compact those guns in there, right? So in the $800 to $1,500 range, there's a lot of great guns. So you can go buy a Ruger Precision all the way up to the Precision custom shop for, up to $1,500. And then with $500 or $600 of add-ons, you can make the guns very, very nice, right? Different, maybe. Well, the custom shop doesn't need a new trigger. The Ruger doesn't really need a trigger, but you could swap it out if you wanted to. I changed the muzzle brakes on the normal Rugers. The Ruger custom shop comes with a
fat bastard.
Comes with a little bastard on it.
Yep.
So great. I mean, they're out of the box. They're ready to shoot. Now you take it to the range. You're like, I want a vertical grip.
Yeah.
I want to change the safety selector. I need a 60 MOA base. Maybe I put $1,000 scope on top of them. Things like that, right? So you buy the rifle, you spend another $1,200 in accessories, most likely, right? So now you're up to, let's call it $2,700, right? So the first group puts you up to around $1,800. You buy the rifle, you spend another $1,000 on accessories if you wanted to. So the $800 rifles to the $1,500 rifles, you're going to end up spending another, let's say, $1,200-ish to $1,200-ish. By the time you buy a scope and different things. So in that class of rifle, we have the Tikkas, the Tikka CTR, the different Tikkas. They don't have a stock that's really conducive to long range shooting especially what I do for PRS, right? So you're gonna end up changing the
Mm-hmm.
stock. CTR, the Tikka CTR uses a proprietary magazine, so you're gonna end up getting new magazines. You're gonna want to put a more expensive scope on it because the rifles are more capable. So yeah, so there's very much a path to upgrade of all of these rifles in the different sets, right? So then you're spending, by the time you get glass, rings, you change a few items on the $800 to $1,500 rifles, which is the Tikka CTR, the Tikka TAC A1, the RPRs in all of their versions, the Savage. Do they call it the Elite? It's in the ACC
Savage.
chassis, right?
So they have the Savage Precision. We have the Savage Elite Precision, which is the ACC.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that probably pushes it over the $1,500 mark.
I guess depending on how good of a deal you can get.
Okay. We'll leave it in there anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have.
Well, so
So let's just say so all of these guns have upgrade paths, right? The Savage doesn't need as many, especially if you get the one in the ACC chassis.
Mm-hmm.
The Ruger doesn't. The CTR is the only one that does, right? But so we'll add, $1,200 ish to the $1,500. So now we have an $1,800 rifle, we have a $2,700 rifle, and then we can talk full custom here in a second.
Well, so here's a question. Where do, I know one of the popular ones in the industry has been the Bergaras, the B14 HMRs, and all of those. Where did
Sorry,
those
they fall in
in?
this. They fall in the same category, the $800 to $1,500.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot. I knew I was missing
How's
someone.
the upgrade path on that? Because I know, in some ways, it looks like it's a Remington 700. In other ways, it doesn't look like a Remington 700.
It's 100% Remington 700 clone.
Okay. And even for the barrels triggers, and all that stuff? And chassis?
Yeah. So chassis, triggers, scope bases.
Okay.
Are all Remington 700. The barrels, I'm not sure of. I don't know if they have a proprietary cut or if they're using a Remage cut or if they're using a Savage small shank.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. But we can, hey, you guys in the chat, hey, James, hey, go look up what the barrel threads on a Bergara B14 are. See if they do it.
Or
anyways, sorry.
Or our next guest, type in a private chat if you know the answer to that question.
Oh yeah, he probably totally knows the answer to it. Hey, next guest, go look up what barrel goes on a B14R. Bergara also has one in the ACC chassis.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. Let's go see if we can figure out how much that guy is.
And Bergara uses a metric barrel tenon.
Okay, so Bergara is proprietary, but I mean, your Smith, any gunsmith can take the tenon and cut one for you. Plus, there's already your bigger companies are making aftermarkets for them. Nice, Bergara's all RM 700. Okay, so the Bergara Mag Light, which I think is a magnesium chassis, so that's in the $3,000 range.
Yikes.
That's where the real discussion gets if you go full custom or you buy something like that. I think there's a fourth category. We can talk about that. I don't see the one in the ACC chassis yet.
Okay.
I know it's out there, but
so here's basically the other question for you. So practically speaking, so I know there's going to be two things. So I know I went to my local FFL and the guy bought a $500 rifle and he was already balking at the idea of spending more than $200 on a scope. Now imagine you take the exact same people and now you tell them, okay, well, great. You bought this $500 Savage 110. Now go ahead and spend $800 to $1,000 upgrading the hell out of this rifle. Now I know, for example, let's say with the Ruger Americans and the Ruger Precisions, it's essentially the same action, just baked around a chassis. I know with the Savage 110, so the Savage 110 and the Savage 110 Elite Precision is basically the same is the same action, just in a chassis. But for people, let's say, might be looking at other guns, just the whole notion of, well, if you're going to spend $500 on a gun plus $1,000 in upgrades, shouldn't you just go get a $1,500 gun to begin with?
Here's the problem. It doesn't matter what you spend on your rifle, you're going to screw around with it.
Okay.
So, meaning, yes, I go buy a $400 rifle, and then you end up screwing around with it. There's just things you're not going to like about a $400 rifle. Freak. There's guys buying B14s for $1,000, and they're screwing around with them, changing triggers, changing stocks, changing scope bases. Like, we're tinkers. Like, if you're truly into the game, you're going to tinker.
Well, and I guess generally speaking, like, you're not going to get a factory gun that you're going to be happy with the trigger, like, if you're a gun guy to begin with. I would say maybe like the Ruger Custom Shop RPR, but even that, I know as soon as you
10
got
ounces
yours,
too heavy.
yeah, you're like, yeah, let's go a little bit lighter on that. So,
thank you, Trigger Tech.
yes. Well, that'll be another topic. I do have it on my thing because I'm getting, once again, I'm getting more questions on that upgrade video on where the heck that thing is, but we'll come back to that on this conversation.
Okay. So your question is if I'm going to go buy a Cabela Special, why do I need to upgrade it, right? Why would I spend the extra, what did I say, $1,000 on upgrading it?
Not why would you, it's rather, does it make sense to?
Again, it goes back to what you're trying to accomplish. I feel like with a $350 rifle, even sighting in one of those stupid 3 to 9s or 3 to 12s, you're going to blow a box of ammo sighting it in.
Okay.
And maybe it's just I'm unexperienced with the closed turrets and click, click, click around.
Probably,
but I hate them. And it would take me 20 rounds where I can put a scope that's like on my gun over there or this gun, and it's a 3-round 0.
Okay.
Right? It's a bore sight. It's 1 round. It's click, click, 2 rounds to verify and done, right? Like,
okay.
So, and that's the other case. It depends on what you're trying to do. I want to shoot half MOA at 100 yards. Well, with a $350 gun, you might shoot a lot of ammo and never accomplish that, right?
Correct.
So it all comes down to what you want to do.
Let's say, for example, I mean, like, take your typical gun owner. Like, if they want to buy a gun, they want to be able to go shoot decent groups at, let's say, 100, 200, 300 yards. And then eventually, let's say they might want to go shoot 1,000 yards with it and be able to hit some steel plates. And let's say, for example, they might want to go hunting with it out in Alaska or one of those big square states out by you. And they want to make sure that the gun is going to be capable of hitting an elk or whatever big game you guys are hunting out there.
Then you need to be in the $800 to $1,500 range on the rifle, and you need to put another $1,000 to $1,500 into the gun.
Really?
And that includes glass. Like that includes the scope rings. Like we're talking about a complete gun ready to go, right?
Okay.
So I mean, you can do it with cheaper guns, but man, going to Alaska, you're going to spend a bunch of money anyways. Why would you take a $300 gun to Alaska? Out here, it's hard to draw elk tags. Why would I take a $300 gun on a once in a lifetime hunt? Like, I think very different. Now, if I'm back in the Midwest or I'm up in the Northeast and you can shoot whitetail from a freaking corn feeder, then I only need a $350 rifle, right?
Well, it's funny. Like, there's like, I go to the FFL, like, so it's beginning of deer season here, and people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to get up at like 5 o'clock, like early in the morning, and I hope I get one." And then, like, as I'm pulling into my driveway, I got one deer just like sitting by my other car, and one on the other side of the driveway, just taking a shit like on our front lawn. I'm like, I could just run them over, like they're in my driveway. So I think like it was if you have to shoot past 100 yards, you're doing something wrong. East
Hey,
Coast.
I want to make a comment to James's last comment.
Yes.
Says my Predator took 50 rounds before the group shrunk. It probably took another 120 rounds for the barrel to stop speeding up as well, right? This is something that people don't know. In your first 100 to 200 rounds, your barrel changes speeds as the
Okay.
bullets wear the barrel in. They're filling in the grooves and but the pitting and the grooves and the stuff, the imperfections inside your barrel. So your gun will speed up. It takes 120 to 180 rounds to break. I hate to say break a barrel in because people are like one shot scrub, like not cleaning. We're talking just speeding up the barrel. It takes 120 to 180 rounds to speed a barrel up.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people they don't invest that time in their gun when they first get it.
Good point.
So thanks for bringing that up, and you'll see it settle in now on a rimfire on a 22. It's 1,000 rounds. Don't worry about the group the 22 shoots until you shoot 1,000 rounds through it.
Wow.
Yeah, the gun behind me is brand new, and maybe I'll do a video on it where I track the progress of the accuracy.
You should.
The 22 behind me I just put an IBI barrel on it. But the gun in the corner over there just probably passed 2,000 rounds, and it's shooting bug holes now, and so yeah, there's a lot of nuances that people don't take into consideration. So back to our 3 tiers. You're gonna spend money on your freaking gun. Now, if you're gonna buy the special and use the scope, good on you. Don't come to my long range class, please. Like, go have fun at the range, but like serious students, right? You have to have the proper gear. The proper gear is exposed, a scope with exposed turrets, so you can dial it, and a gun that can hold 1 MOA, right? It doesn't have to be anything super special, right? 1 MOA just means at 100 yards, you're going to shoot 10 inches, but then you have to take the SD of your ammo into fact, right? And it will open the group up a little bit, right? So you just have to understand the capability of your rifle and what you're trying to do. The thing that opened my eyes the most was watching people shoot the Milk Jug Challenge by Bryce Bergen, Long Range Shooters of Utah. I have been around such a high caliber of shooter for so long, I have forgotten some of the fundamentals, right? Of not everyone has a gun that's a laser beam, right? That can shoot half MOA at 1,000 yards. And then you have to take into consideration the SD of your ammo and different things, right? So I watched them shoot at these milk jugs, and the advice was don't chase it, don't chase. Like, you can watch those rounds walk back into the target without adjusting. Of course, you have to have a good wind call, but like once you have got your wind call set, and we had it set all day, we knew what it was, right? So it was a good 5 mile an hour constant 90-degree wind. And but you could just watch those bullets walk their way in. Sometimes it was on the 3rd shot, sometimes it was on the 10th shot, but you could watch them walk inside of their expected area, which is larger for most guns than a milk jug, meaning you might only hit it once out of 10, even though you're doing everything correct.
Yeah.
So something else to take into consideration. What are you doing with the gun? What ammo are you using? And what are your expected results, right?
James, so if you're having sound issues, make sure on the top of your tab you didn't accidentally mute it, or just close the browser window and restart.
If you're using Chrome, go turn off memory saver in the settings.
There you go. All right, so here's actually the question. I'm glad you brought this up. So, I mean, here we are talking about Milk Jug Challenge, and I'm assuming we were talking about like the mild Milk Jug Challenge, or are we talking just the more
No, we're 1,000 yards.
Okay, so even like 1,000 yards. We're talking about like 1,000 yards like it's nothing, but do you think that we also have a little bit more unrealistic expectations versus what your standard shooter or your typical gun buyer is going to be able to actually ever do?
So 1,000 yards is the golden ticket, right? I want to hit 1,000 yards. Everyone thinks it's impossible. I promise you, I could have your 5-year-old do it. in 3 shots.
3 shots.
Yeah, as long as they understand the crosshair on the target, right? I can
Okay.
dial turrets and I can hold the gun and they can pull the trigger,
Okay.
right? I watched a 4-year-old do it on a 10-inch plate at 1,300 yards once we set her behind the
Wow.
rifle, right? The rifle works. We know what the rifle will do, right? It's the idiot driving the rifle.
Okay.
The idiot driving the rifle that screws up, right? So, I mean, that's the case, right? What are you doing with the rifle? If you're not going out and shooting PRS with a $350 rifle, I mean, you can, but you got to spend the extra $1,200 on a good chassis, on different things. There's just things that make you better. Maybe not the rifle better, but make you better with the rifle. It's more ergonomical. It feels better.
Basically, in essence, helping you extract the most consistency and the most potential out of the rifle. Basically, making the interface between the human and the rifle a little bit better.
Yeah, and like those cheap rifles, their scopes touch the barrels. The action screws don't bed. They don't sit correctly. Like it's a $350 gun, right? You bought a Prius and you took it to an F1 rally, right? Like you took it to a Formula One race. It's just different things, right? And it takes time to figure out what you're doing. But we're talking upgrade paths, right?
All right.
You buy this rifle and you upgrade it, or why would you buy this rifle? And
I went to Cabela's. I bought a Savage Axis 110 switchback. So it has a really good barreled action, but it comes with a trigger and it comes with a completely mediocre stock. What do I do?
I gotta go look this gun up. I got it right here. Savage switchback.
So the switchback is a Cabela special. I'm sorry, it's a Sportsman's Warehouse special.
Oh, so it's not a number one thing to change the stock.
Okay.
Savage switchback. Sportsman's Warehouse. Let's look at this thing. Actually, I mean, it has an okay stock on it. You could put a cheek riser on it and probably be just okay with it.
Okay.
Depending on what you're doing, right? You could take that and shoot a 1,000-yard milk jug challenge with it, right?
Yes.
You need to figure out what ammo it likes and do some testing and get your 200 rounds so it's repeatable, different things like that. But I mean, it's decent. I mean, it looks free floated. If it's free floated, run a dollar bill down there. If it's free floated, make sure you retorque everything. And you know what? You just change that ugly handle out for a gold Anarchy one. That's your first path.
Okay.
I mean, shoot the rifle and figure it out, right? I love to tell people they should upgrade stuff, but shoot the rifle first. I hate bladed triggers, so I would take that rifle and I would knock its trigger out. Or I would open it and I would take the blade out of it. Because you can do that. I mean,
okay.
OSHA violations. Just kidding. You can take the blade out of it, I'm pretty sure, and it will still function. But I would replace the trigger. And then I'd shoot the rifle and see, is it worth adding a cheek weld to it or buying one of those nylon ones for the bullets for, extra money? Or do you go buy a KRG Bravo stock? And then over the course of time, you can add an Arcarel, you can add weights, there's an even further upgrade path, right? Or you can go buy an ACC Elite chassis or a Oryx chassis, or there's a lot of paths for the rifle.
So basically, as long as the base barreled action is supported, you're going to have a bunch of paths, and you'd rather someone do that than just buy a gun that might be better out of the box but doesn't have a path to upgradability, such as the CZ600 or let's say Howa 1500, things like that, or CBA Cascade. I think the CBA Cascade is a great option, but everything's proprietary on that gun.
I'm kind of in the middle of buy once, cry once, but there's a learning progression, right?
Okay.
So maybe this rifle will help you learn and progress to a certain point, and maybe you can skip the middle tier of rifle and you can go all the way up to a high-end rifle. Or maybe you're like, you know what? I'm not going to chase being the best shooter in the world. I'll just stick in the middle tier. But you still have a very nice Savage rifle that you started on in the closet, right? Still very much nice and still upgradable, and you can do different things with it. So getting back to our tiers. So we have an $1,800 rifle. So you take a $400 rifle, turn it into an $1,800 rifle. You can take a $800 to $1,500 rifle, turn it into a $2,700 rifle. And now let's talk custom, or some of these really expensive Bagarby 14Rs that they put in a custom chassis, like a ACC Elite, right? So let's talk actions. You can buy a custom action from between $800 to $1,500, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just say 14. Then you need a trigger. You can buy triggers from $200 to $400. So we'll say $300. And then you can buy, you need let's see, what did I write $400 down for? Oh, you got to buy a barrel, $350 for a gunsmith. So you can buy pre-fits, right? You can buy some pre-fits and different things in here. So the prices fluctuate just a little bit depending on exactly what you're doing. So $1,400 for the action, $300 for a trigger, $400 for a barrel blank, $350 for a gunsmith to turn that barrel blank into a rifle barrel and put it on your gun. So you're up to $3,500. Okay. For a rifle. Oh, sorry. I forgot. You need another $1,000 for a stock. Now that can fluctuate from $400 to $1,500, $1,600, right? So I picked somewhere in the middle. If you're gonna go buy like a Manners or a Macmillan with a bottom metal, you're $1,000 anyways, right? For a stock.
Mm-hmm.
So a custom rifle that's pretty much custom out, tricked out, is $3,500 ish. Give and take, depending on the exact options that you pick, you can go more expensive or you can go a little less expensive than that. That does not include glass. Now, you probably need to spend $2,500 to $3,000 on rings and glass. You don't have to. You can spend $400 on a rifle scope and $100 on rings. But what I always tell people is if you can't see it, you can't shoot it. And if you've never used really expensive glass, then you have never experienced the joys of really expensive glass. But yeah, so that's kind of the different route. So looking on the website here, you can buy for $3,000. You can buy a Bagarby 14R in an ACC chassis. Now, I would hope that they would take a little bit more care when they're putting the barrel on that action because they know where it's going and how it should perform. But that's not always the case. So you can go fully custom for $35,000, or you can go semi-custom like with a Bagara to $3,000. Or you can go over to like Masterpiece Arms and buy a custom hand-built one in a MPA chassis for $2,500, right? Lots of different options, different price points, and different things. That's kind of what makes it's fun. Oh yeah, I forgot about the Seekins. I always forget about that because when it first came out, one of my buddies yanked his bolt back and hit himself in the face because the bolt stop broke. Like less than 100 rounds, he goes honk and goes bam, right in his face. So, but they've gotten much better. Seekins is doing great. I forgot about the Havoc. You also have Christensen Arms, Fierce Firearms is another one. So those are kind of like boutique gun builders. Seekins is not really because they're huge. They're a big company. But those are other boutique gun builders that are out there that are more semi-custom as well. But they're in the same price range. They're in that $1,500 to $5,000.
Well, and I guess range. All of those rifles are quote unquote the PRS production division ready rifles, like the stuff that they make to fit like that $2,500 MSRP.
Yeah, the Seekins Havoc is a lot of hunting rifles, but they make one that's like PRS production ready. Christensen Arms makes one that's kind of the same, but then you have companies like Masterpiece Arms and some others that make them. You get like Alamo Precision and you get GA Precision, and
Mhm.
some of these gunsmiths have started making their own guns and different things.
But that's already
So,
kind of like blending the line between factory and custom, because a lot of these guys you can just contact them direct, like GA Precision, and build you a gun.
yeah, they'll build you a custom gun, or they'll build you what I'd call a custom semi or a semi-custom, where they
Okay.
have kind of a package that they do, versus like walking into a gunsmith and saying, "Hey, here's my action, here's
Mhm.
my barrel, put it together. I want this reamer with this cut, with this chamber, with this thread, with this length, with all the specifications." So, but
Very
yeah,
cool.
that's kind of the tiers that I would put. And for upgradability, even these custom rifles, right? Everything's upgradable. Like everything's upgradable. You can. I had them laying back there, but I put them away. Um, you can upgrade anything, right? You can get your barreled action and put it in a $400 gun, a stock, and then realize you want an $800 one, and then you want a $1,200 one.
Mhm.
So what I suggest to people if they're getting into the sport is find a local mentor who has the gear and go shoot. Go to
Yeah.
a match, go shoot stuff, right? But we're talking Cabela specials here, right? So if you want the $400 gun, go buy it. Go have fun with it. Live it, love it, and know there is an upgrade path if you choose to do so.
Very cool. All right. So speaking of Cabela specials, I decided to spend my actually it wasn't during Black Friday. So Cabela's, they started doing their promos in the beginning of the week, and then they had some stuff that was special just for Black Friday. But I wasn't going to do that craziness. But after how crappy the Springfield 2020 was, I'm like, okay, well, let's find other rifles that are better than the 2020 Rimfire. And I saw in the Cabela's ad, they had a special for the Winchester Expert 22 bolt action rifle. I'm like, ooh, this looks interesting. And best part about it, it was like after rebate, it was like $229, and then there's a $30 rebate, so it was like $199 after rebate. And I decided, hey, you know what? Let me go buy that as this year's Cabela special, much like we did with the Savage Access a couple of years ago. So I go to Cabela's, I bring my daughter, like, oh, this will be in and out. I never go pending with the Nix/Pix. And before I knew it, it was 3 hours of hell for what I think a total time would be about 5-minute transaction uh, at the store. So I had to basically, when you get there, in order to get to the gun counter, you need to put your name in that stupid system. And I was like number 7, and I waited an hour and 15 minutes before I was like the first person in line, then waited another 10 minutes. So it was like a total of like an hour 25 before I had the pleasure of telling the person, hey, I just want to buy this gun from this ad. He takes me there, no apologies, nothing, anything else like that. Like, don't, not even like, hey, sorry it took so long. Um, Takes me over to the system to start putting in my information for the background check. From that point, it was at least another hour and a half until we were ready to pay for the damn gun. So I started wondering, okay, what the heck is going on? And I know somebody who is a good friend of the channel, someone who is familiar with how that place operates. And I really wanted to know, okay, so Cabela's was bought out by Bass Pro. Is this Bass Pro shenanigans? Or is this just Cabela's going nuts? Or what the heck is going on with it? So we're going to bring on Mr. Derek, Northwest Guns. Hello, my friend.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Welcome to the craziness.
Right.
So, so sorry it took so long. No, sir. This is Walmart version of a gun store. The sad part is I'm fairly positive that if I went to my local Walmart and bought a rifle, it would be quicker than that. Now, Derek, before you go and explain it to us, before you mansplain it, thank you very much to Clovertech for the super chat. Absolutely appreciate that. More people should be like Clovertech and help support the shenanigans here.
We have
and
to
send a
start
super
over.
And now we're going to start over with this whole conversation. So, Derek, we do what our super fans tell us. So I'm going to put you back into the blue room, and Aaron, we're going to have to go through this.
I'm going to bed. See ya.
No, we can let Derek go through the upgrade process. I'll go in the blue room.
The green room, blue room. There's no sex in the champagne room. All right. So, Derek, is this a one-off anomaly that I experienced, or it basically seemed to me while, like, I literally thought that this was going to be a great experience, but that entire thing, being pissed off, waiting, I was able to do 2 YouTube shorts and a YouTube post complaining and going Karen on Cabelas. And I promise I might have, like, I didn't say, like, don't you know who I am? I didn't have one of those moments. But, like, am I being unrealistic? Because I can go to my local FFL and be in and out within 5 minutes. But it seems like while I was sitting there, with a bunch of other people who are like, oh, well, the Nick system must be slow. And I'm like, no, I never go pending because there's no one else in the same name. It's like my background check does not take that long. But it looked like there was like 7 or 8 other people who laid their hands on that gun and laid their hands on that paperwork. And I heard doubles screamed a couple of different times. So mansplain it to me, please.
Okay, so
Talk
I'll
dirty
start.
to me.
Right. Put a little cranberry sauce on there, buddy. So let me explain it from the start to finish, and how the system, the Nick system, works for Bass Pro Shop and Cabelas. So it is the same company now. Probably in the next 10 years, we're all going to be Bass Pro Shops for the most part. Let me start that off. So the way it starts is find the firearm for the person on what they want. Go get the firearm. Their ID gets checked into the system. We make sure that there's no
that for not anybody, a pedophile.
Well, no. How it goes is we have our own check system where it pretty much is make sure that address isn't a hot address on the sheets. Like if there's like a prohibited person who can't own a firearm who lives at that address, because by
KYC baby.
Exactly. You got to CYA on all this stuff because it's hard to get an FFL. It's even harder to keep it now. So Bass Pro Shop is probably one of the longest processes you're gonna go through to buy a firearm. So when we start everything, we go through everything. We start with, okay, we ask them what a straw purchase is. If they don't know, we explain it to them. We tell them to check, hit a box if they understand it. Hit the next screen. We ask them to put in their phone number, so just in case we need to get a hold of them, if they go into researching or delay, we have access to be able to get a hold of you. Then we go into your 4473, which is your federal form asking for permission to buy a firearm by the federal government, which gets submitted over to the FBI, which is NICS, National Informational Check Systems, which a lot of people don't understand what that means. So you fill out your 4473. We tell you to stop at the PDF file. We will check the file. We will check it over with your driver's license because after all the new regulations that came into play as of April 1st this year, you're not allowed to have a supplemental anymore. Your address has to match the form, and the driver's license is one, and a whole lot of other stuff. So we do our first check is the actual outfitter who is helping you. They check the form. Okay, oh, you missed something on your form. At least this way you can go back, you can fix it, and then proceed back to the PDF.
Wait, hold on. But isn't it against ATF regulations for the person behind the counter to not coach, but explain things to them?
No. Okay, so okay, so when it comes to the questions part of it, you are not allowed to help them. All
Okay.
you can tell them is gray. The gray writing is the question, the black is the warning, the blue question mark if you need additional help. Okay. When we get to the PDF file, that's saying that's a check. That's a check area for us. We make sure like their address matches our license, their zip code is correct, their name is spelled correct, their birth date is correct, all that type of stuff. And then if we feel it, we go. Then I know people who. How can I say this? Then the outfitter will check with them, go over it. Okay. And then another outfitter will come over, check the firearm to the form to make sure the serial numbers are right, make sure all the information is right on the form with the customer. That's great. That's good. Then it proceeds to where the customer signs. The customer then reads over the last paragraph, which a lot of people don't understand. It's pretty much if you told the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Check the box, hit the calendar for today's date. We'll highlight, sign it, save it, certify it. Okay. Once the certification is done, they're done with their form. We then go back
and then
in.
starts the 3-hour waiting process.
No, not there yet. Not there yet. So we go back in, we go in, and we enter in the driver's license information. State, driver's license number, expiration date, all that stuff. And then from there, your third check happens afterwards. A lead has to check it, or a manager has to check the form to make sure everything is proper and correct. And same with the firearm, making sure the proper firearm is fit into the form and everything else. And then from there, they sign off on it. The outfitter has a check screen that comes up. We sign off on it. Then we send it over to NICS. Unless you have a CWP, concealed weapons permit, or a CCW in some states, then that will bypass you going to NICS.
But that's going to be state to state dependent. So, for example, in Pennsylvania, if you don't have that, even if you have a CCW, you still got to go through PICS.
Yes, you still have to go to NICS. So,
and see, here in Utah, you use the state. You don't use NICS. We don't use NICS at all in Utah.
Oh, see, here in where I live, we use NICS. I know in Oregon, they don't use NICS either. They use the state police. So from there, we submit it to NICS. Now it can come back as proceed, delayed, denied, research.
Correct.
If it goes to researching, then it can come back as proceed, denied, delay. And usually researching takes another 20, 30 minutes from that point. They have to pay for the firearm because it takes it out of inventory. It means their name is on it. A copy of the receipt gets put in the box. It gets put on the back shelf. And about 20, 30 minutes later, they'll go up and see who's ever working the lead station, and the lead will check to see if they went to a proceed or not.
I feel like you should put all the leads in a freaking chair. Boom, 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 boom.
Right?
I feel like there's a lot of coffee breaks happening in this process. So I got a question.
But I don't think he's even done with the process yet.
Hold on, I'm not even done with the process.
I had a question about the process, but I'll wait.
Give me 2 more minutes. I waited an hour.
just 2
2
minutes?
weeks.
Yeah, that's what you said out back. Just 2 minutes, Derek. I promise.
But that was only 2 minutes ago.
And then he started talking for more, but go ahead.
So from there, if it comes back as a proceed, the outfitter goes over, signs off on the form, because that's what you have to do, sign off on the form. Then we go to the register, back to the register, and then you got to do a forecheck, which is just one of the leads or the managers just doing a final check over everything and making sure everything was great, because you don't want to get a 1 through 4, which is a major critical on your ATF FFL. And from there, you're good to go. We usually will hand the firearm off to the person. They've paid it. It gets safety taped with red safety tape. They're told you can't open it in the store. You can't put it in a bag or anything until you walk out the building, because the red safety tape needs to be shown for safety purposes. So Other than that, the process is a little bit longer than normal than what you would find at some other gun
An
shops.
hour and a half.
Usually it takes me about 25 minutes to get everybody from start to finish.
But an hour and a half, that's so basically like you guys have your own bullshit system beforehand. Then you have I saw 8 people. I counted 8.
I'm not saying I agree with the system by
Correct.
any means. I'm not saying I agree with the way it's done. It's just the way I have to do it to have a job.
Mhm.
So, and the one thing is, after a while of doing it, I understand why they do it, because it is hard to get an FFL net right now with the way the ATF is. Okay.
They also have they also have the I don't give a shit policy anymore, and for the first infraction they'll take everything.
Exactly.
Which I happened to witness in my town. I watched the ATF come in and ruin a 25-year-old business.
Okay. So on Rumble, Drew Bradley. Drew, why the hell aren't you posting on YouTube? So it makes it easier and I can pop up your comment. Nah, guys, you're doing the wrong form. You got to do it like the feds. Just drop on shipping containers in the streets, unlocked, and leave. That is how you legally move product. Oh, wait, only the feds are allowed to drop off firearms without paperwork. Seems like it.
Right.
So I got a question for Derek.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have never used the NIST system. Are you submitting the information electronically?
Yes.
And waiting for it to come back?
Usually it comes back pretty quick. So,
like, what's the standard time? Like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 minutes?
It could go to proceed in 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so all of ours here, like it's if you're automatically approved, you're automatically approved. Like I never had to wait more than 5 seconds.
Yeah, so like in Utah, if you have a concealed weapons permit, we can actually get on a website that's heavily monitored, and you can get into the website, put in their information, and pull it up, and within 2 seconds, if you don't have one, they have another website where you can enter information, but I just call typically, and I think the longest. I actually got pretty good at knowing most of the girls that answered the phone because it was like the same 4 girls. So I could almost have their name.
Do we all have the same husband?
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah.
Sorry, the Mormon jokes are going to keep on coming.
Man, I gotta look up some Jewish jokes today. I'll do that here in a second. So that's super interesting for me to know, right? Because Utah is a very different state. We also are one of the very few states that require you to do a 4473 after you get your tax stamp as well. So we have to run a Utah background check on a suppressor, even though the feds just ran a tax stamp on you.
Yes, you have to do that here too.
So, and that's kind of a state-by-state thing as well.
Yeah, my state's the same way on this one when it comes to that. I've seen that one in person, and I was wondering because I'm looking at it weird. I'm like, you just got the tax stamp in, but you still have to do a 4473.
Well, you got to do a 4473, but you don't need to do a background check.
Right, it bypasses that part because there's a code.
In Utah, you have to do the 4473 and the background check. Which is why Anarchy doesn't deal with suppressors anymore.
Gotcha.
So.
No, I will say one thing. There's the state of Oregon just put into play. It's a state law now that no residents of the state of Oregon can buy a firearm out of state. So that just came into play for us.
I want to know how in the heck they enforce that.
It's on the restriction list. Because
the big companies are going to allow it.
So I have a question for you, Derek.
The big companies are going to follow it because here's the thing. And what's been happening, let's say, for example, with New York and New Jersey. So technically by federal law, like you're supposed to, when you're selling to out-of-state residents, you are supposed to follow their own requirements as well. So technically you should know whether you can or cannot sell it. But let's say, for example, like New York and New Jersey, they've been suing Pennsylvania FFLs for selling non-compliant guns to New Jersey people as well. So
So
let's put this: a Cabela's better follow it, like, or like a bigger FFL would want to know
Yeah.
what those regulations are, because otherwise they're just going to get sued into oblivion.
That makes
And
sense.
Right.
So Derek, question for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're in Arizona. You're in Arizona. Does Arizona allow you to sell long guns to people from out of state?
Okay. Yes and no. If
I want to
like,
hear this.
okay, so like Oregon, we can't sell one. California, we can't sell to. Massachusetts, we can't sell to.
You can't
New
sell
York.
anything to California. You can't sell
You
shotgun.
can't sell it. You can't sell anything to California.
Okay.
Period. So
Well,
like
out of
Washington.
state,
Actually, here I'm going to bring up Washington because somebody mentioned Washington in the comments. So Washington is actually
the Dirt Rider mentioned it.
Yeah. So Washington is actually a very interesting state. So you can't buy an AR-15 out of state now in Washington, or any semi-automatics that are threaded muzzle. But here's a little gray area on things. If it's not a semi-automatic, say a lever gun or a bolt gun, you can buy a threaded barrel.
Yeah, I've been to those cowboy competitions. Those lever guns are basically semi-automatics.
Oh yeah, if you have it set up right.
So that's interesting because in Utah, as far as I'm aware, and Anarchy, we don't deal in firearms too much anymore because of all of the regulations. It's just a pain. We still have all of our licenses because it makes our job super easy as we need product and stuff.
Right.
And then we can ship things to other FFLs and things as well as we need to. But in Utah, you could, last time I checked, and I'm not current on this, only handguns you could not sell to an out-of-state residence.
Yeah,
and that's
that's
federal.
that's federal.
Is that a federal thing? That's a federal
Yes.
thing? Okay.
You're only allowed to buy a handgun in your home state.
You also have to, this is another thing, you have to next day air handguns.
Yes, federal.
From FFL to FFL.
Mhm.
So
Federal.
that's okay. We shipped one to someone's house once.
I don't know shit.
And they call no, this is funny because they called us and they were freaking out. Like, what do I do with this, brah? And I was like, calm down, bro. So we call our ATF agent, and he's like, bro, this happens all the freaking time. He's like, too bad that dude wouldn't listen to you because you could have just had him walk it to his FFL and they had checked it in like normal and they'd have done the background check. He's like, now I have to fill out paperwork, but he's like, they're just going to send it back to you? You're going to send it right back to his FFL. Like, no big deal. Happens all the freaking time.
Yes. So Chris brought up a comment. So you can't send handguns USPS priority mail. There's an exception to that because it's the government. Yeah. So they classify USPS priority mail as air service. So that is partly why.
I've gotten a bunch of handguns via USPS priority mail.
Yeah.
Well,
So
actually,
what they're also doing is they're not declaring what's in the package.
Well,
here's the thing: you can actually legally send yourself a package from one address to the next address as long as it's addressed to you and it's a firearm. It's fine. As long.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm talking.
So-
I've received from manufacturers via USPS priority mail.
Correct. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. That's legal.
Which you're not supposed to because they're supposed to be next day aired. And USPS.
No, not next day. It just needs to be air. It needs to be air. It doesn't.
Is that all it
is?
Is it just has
correct?
To be air?
It's air, not next day air.
So this is
Now,
why we stopped dealing in firearms because we don't want to keep up with all this crap.
Yeah, trust me, dude, it's a headache because the
It
ATF
also-
is changing shit all the time.
If you're listening on the stream and you want to start an FFL for your freaking house or business or whatever, just remember you gave the ATF the right to come into your house at any time they want.
Mm-hmm.
You surrendered all of your rights.
Correcto.
Pretty much. And they can even go in your personal safe too. So
that's why you put all your guns in a trust, then they can't touch them.
So, but I do want to jump.
I don't actually own anything.
Okay, I do want to jump in on one thing on the upgrades thing you guys were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
so,
you've got tons of experience with the Savages. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So for the Savage, for the upgraded triggers for the Savages, my experience has been that the Elfman tactical trigger is probably one of the best for the Savage.
I always forget about Elfman.
They have one for a Savage?
Oh god, yeah, dude, they're
Have them
amazing.
send me one.
Because they did a Remington.
And I have the Remington. That's all I shoot is Elfman. Their shop is actually about 20 minutes away from my house, 25 minutes. We
So I
actually
send you a Bixen Andy.
Send me a Bixen Andy and I'll give it a try. So I just actually just got back from their shop a few days ago before Black Friday. So I know a lot of the new stuff that they have coming for our SHOT Show. So I'm really excited because...
Can we talk about that after this?
If I'm on there, yeah, we can talk about it.
Oh, we'll lock you down.
So Elfman is a really good company, very underrated Remington 700 triggers. I will say, dude, best 700 trigger I've ever shot, and I've shot Timneys, I've shot Trigger Techs, I've shot I haven't shot a Bixen. I haven't shot a Bixen Andy, so I can't say I've shot one of those. But my Savage and both my Remington triggers, I've taken to Night Force and have run flawlessly.
See, Elfman needs to sponsor some PRS events because guys
just tell me. They tell hey, I'm the guy. You need to tell me.
Guys in that world, they've been supporting the sponsors. And that's why I think you don't see any Elfmans in that world.
Well, let me know what's going on. We'll talk after this, I'll get a hold of you on Tuesday and we'll talk because they actually want to sponsor some matches this next year. So we'll talk about that. Elfman,
that's cool. They have a Savage 10 SE trigger. That's legit. Look at that.
I have their AR-15 match trigger. I just don't have my SBR finished yet, so I can't give you guys any experience with that. But I do know one of the top female 3-gunners in the Southwest. I can tell you right now, she's also sponsored by Elfman, and that's all she runs.
Oh, Elfman's the real deal in the AR trigger world.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't get much better. I mean, you've got some like Timney's Daniel Horner trigger, the Elfman, some of the Geisley super ones, but Elfman is the name in the AR game for the best triggers.
I will say right now, their AK-47 trigger is no joke. That thing is like top notch. I mean, God, dude, if you need an AK-47 trigger upgrade, ooh.
I need an AK-47, buddy.
Me too. But
okay, perfect.
But when it comes down to it, like one rifle you brought up, which is probably two of my best-selling rifles that I do, because I'm the long-range precision guy at my gun counter. Between me and my buddy Jim, but I shoot it competitively, and Jim used to shoot with a lot of like high Hall of Fame bench rest shooters, and Jim's a good friend of mine. So my two go-to guns are the Savage 110 Elite and probably the Ruger Precision Rifle. And the first thing I tell everybody about the Ruger Precision Rifle is I fold the stock, I pull the bolt out, and I tell them the back bolt shroud needs to be replaced. You need to go to Anarchy Outdoors and get that metal bolt shroud for you. That's the first thing. Then I tell them they need to get an adjustable bag rider for the back.
Which we're gonna stock here shortly.
Awesome.
Awesome. Dude, I've sold so many bag riders since I've been down here in the Southwest, and trust me,
caveat, we're gonna start with just the Ruger one. But
you need to do the Ruger and the MDT.
The MDT ACC?
It goes on the ACC and the LSS.
Okay, I'll write that down. Because we did review that last week, and we decided to do just the Ruger one. But
you need to do the MDT one too.
The
and
MDT.
he's also got one for the Tika. Was it the T3A1? See, for 6.5 Creedmoors, if somebody wants a higher end 6.5 Creedmoor, I put them towards the Tika T3. Just because the Tika
Shame on you.
Ooh.
Wow. Okay, I'm actually kind of... No, but here's... No. Let me finish. That for people who don't want to do all the work, but want something out of the box, the T3A1 is actually not a bad rifle.
It just doesn't have an upgrade path.
Not a lot of it, and I agree with you on that.
Because of the integrated scope base.
Right. I agree with you on that. But
they're great guns. They are great guns.
Yes, but like I said, the 110 Elites and the RPRs are probably my two top selling rifles. I do. Now, if somebody can't afford either one of those, then I take them down to the Bagaras. And then from the Bagaras, because it's a 700 platform, it's more somewhere we're uncomfortable on personally, because I don't have a lot of experience shooting the RPRs as much as you and Max do. But, well, I mean, once I get one, I actually want to.
No, sorry, that face was because I read it takes the stupid proprietary magazines. That's the second hit on the Tika. Integrated scope base proprietary magazines.
Actually, no, they switched that over this year. They're taking the AICS magazines now.
Really? Because they were taking the CTR mag.
No, they're taking AICS magazines now.
So, SHOT Show, need to go look at Intika's booth. That's what you're telling me.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to do that. Taking notes here.
Absolutely. I'll even go with you. So, but, yeah. So, when it comes to the Savage, I kind of veer people away from the Axis, and it's just because the Axis is just, it really, to me, it's not a reliable rifle for the money. An Axis now, if you don't buy it on sale, they're like $500. I tell everybody, go another $200 more and get yourself into a 110. You have a lot more options.
I totally agree with that.
With that, you've seen some of the 110s I've built. So, God, I've sent a lot of people with 110s your way, especially the ones who buy the Elites, because they're buying the bolt handles, the bolt knobs. I tell them to replace the fire pin spring with the David Tubbs chromoly spring. I tell them to grab a what do you call it? A bolt throw kit for it. Tell them to either get the LSP long shot precision grip or the Penguin grip. Those are my two top grips. I've been testing.
Have we sent you an alpha grip, Derek?
No.
I'll do that right now.
Then I don't think you have.
So the alpha grip, instead of sloping up, it has a 90-degree angle down.
Oh, okay. So, like, my favorite bolt knob is the little Bertha bolt knob. My son is running the big Bertha bolt knob on his custom rifle I built him. So, and this is one thing that Aaron here is going to love, is that my son put the Anarchy Outdoors decal on the side of his scope so people know who he's shooting with. It's awesome.
That just means your son knows where it's at.
Right.
That kid is educated.
Well, he's going to be shooting for Pristine Technologies this next year and Heller Arms with his dad. So he's going to be doing good. So kid's good shot. Can't complain. He's my pedigree. But yeah, guys, my two main places I send people is Long Shot Precision for the bag riders and all that stuff, and then usually over to you, Aaron, for Anarchy Outdoors. And people ask, is it worth the money to upgrade? You know, I tell everybody to go. Okay, I'll send that over to you. I'll send that to you after the live stream, Aaron. So I tell everybody to go check it out. And there's actually a couple people have actually taken my rifle, my 300 PRC out, and because I have the Anarchy Outdoors bolt knob, the titanium bolt knob, and the prototype bolt handle, because I still haven't gotten the production ones out.
Send me your address and we'll fix that.
Oh, I know. I will. So, and these people are just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And they play with the bag rider. They play with the whole thing. They're like, but can it shoot? Well, absolutely it can shoot. I built it. And they're just printing off like half MOA groups with the 300 PRC and just blowing their mind. And I let them take it out to 1,000 yards.
Yes, it shoots. I torqued the action screws correctly. And I made some modifications. And absolutely. I did this and that. And I sent a few rounds down the tube so I know what it does.
Right? So I'm not gonna say that a lot of these companies aren't worth the money for upgrades, because they absolutely are. And a lot of people who know me, I'm all about small business, working with the small mom and pop shops than I am with the bigger companies.
So you worked your way down. Do you ever work customers the other way?
Towards a custom rifle?
No. They come in wanting the $330 Cabela special. Do you ever work them up a tier?
Yes, I always try to work
Because
them up at least one tier.
I understand working people down a tier is perfect because that customer came in knowing what they wanted or semi knowing what they wanted. If you're working them
Right.
down, right? Because you're working with
So-
their budget and stuff. Say Max walks in and is like, I want your $330 special, and I want to hit 1,000 yards. Boom, talk him up. Let's hear this. Up to
Well,
the mid
well, that's
tier.
going to be hard because I already know he's Jewish. So,
Oh,
we know.
that's rough.
Well, it's really not that hard because
Well,
you
no,
know
but
he
here's
only
the thing.
spends a
We're
couple dollars
frugal.
on guns,
We
but
don't
on
like
glass he spends
pissing-
lots of money.
No, we're
Right.
frugal. It doesn't mean that like we just hate wasting our money. It needs to be a good value. It's not about the price.
So-
It's about the value.
It also matters who the vendor is. If they're buying from another Jewish person, then they have more leeway to go a little higher. If they're not in the
Right.
community, then they're like suppress that price.
Sure.
So I will like if they're looking at an Access, I'll try to show them over to the Ruger American Predator or the Ruger American Hunter series. If they're not interested in the Rugers, then I try to bring them over to the 110 Tactical series because it does have the aluminum bedded system inside the stock. It does have the option for the height comb adjustment and the length of pull. And I tell them it's not on the go. You have to fix it and cater it to your needs. But it does come with a threaded muzzle. It does come with 20 MOA rail from EGW on it, which is a nice feature to have. I'm like, you got a good rifle here to start because I hunt with a 110 Tactical. And I tell people this, and they just look at me and they're like, but you got all these custom rifles. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to go take a $10,000 custom rifle into the woods and beat the shit out of it.
They're just a tool, Derek. They're just a tool.
Oh, I know they're just a tool. That's why I use a 308.
So my gun back here that you can't see because it's cut off, I let my friend scratch it so that it's like you get a brand new car, right? You just have to walk out and put one scratch on it, and then you're like, oh, we're good to go.
Yep.
Right. Then we don't care.
Then it's all downhill after that.
Like, and if somebody wants to go up from a tier from there, then I'll be like, okay, then we got Tikas, and now or a Bergara or something like that.
What gun do you sell the most of to a long range? Someone wanting to do long range. What's the gun that is being purchased the most?
But do those people even go into a big box store? That's the other question.
No. We're talking like brand new,
actually,
like
brand new shooter.
In 2015, I went and purchased a Ruger precision rifle, right? But I knew what I wanted when I purchased it.
So I ask him, I'm like, is this your first long range rifle you're buying, or is this something that you're going to grow into?
So you're getting the use case, okay?
Right. And the biggest thing is, it's like if they're not going to be out shooting like every week or something like that. I usually veer them towards a 6.5 Creedmoor. Barrel life is good. They're not going to, and they're shooting stock ammunition. So that way 6.5 Creedmoor is not going to break their budget. You can always pick up a box of 6.5 Creedmoor. It's about $37 a box. Okay. Now, if they want to go up,
sorry for all you normal people.
Now, if you want to go up a tier from there, I would be say the 300 PRC. A very viable cartridge. It will get you out to 2,100 yards with a little bit of work, but it's a good cartridge, and then you can also reload it for a decent price too.
You know what, Slav? We needed to have Derek for last week's conversation because he actually works at a gun counter about caliber adoption.
Okay.
Of the 22 ARC. So I got a question for you, Derek. How many 7 PRCs are you seeing from manufacturers?
Christensen, Fierce.
Those are boutiques, okay.
Mossberg. And we just got in the Remington. Not the Remington. Yeah, we've got in the Remington and the Ruger.
Have you gotten a Bergara yet? Because Bergara was one of the first big ones.
Nope, because they have they literally just released the media on it
Okay.
a couple weeks ago. So
Okay.
So
am I hoping before SHOT Show? Yes. Am I honestly? You're probably not going to see it till after.
Okay. But
my
you're
local-
starting to see a good variety of 7 PRCs in the or yes or no?
Yes and no. We got into Christensen's first, and we don't sell too many of those because a lot of people don't want to spend $2,500. Okay, and then we got into Mossbergs, and from what I've been told, I've sold 2 or 3 of the Mossberg 7 PRCs, and everybody says they shoot and they're accurate. They're sub MOA out of the box. So,
I call bullshit on that. Sorry.
well, I'm just going by what I've
Yeah.
been told. I haven't shot the 7 PR. I've only shot the 7 PRC once, and that was literally at SHOT Show this year because I was able to get away from the booth I was working at to go shoot one.
So what you're telling me is when I finish building my custom 7 PRC, I go buy a Mossberg so I can do an extreme video.
Yes.
Actually,
Factory gun versus custom.
well, I will say there's one bougie or boutique rifle company that you call it that I'm actually kind of disappointed in. I really am disappointed, and it's not Christensen Arms. Actually, it's actually Fierce. I'm disappointed in their bolt head design. Because when we get a lot of these guns in, I'll pull it out, look at the bolt, and be like, okay, has it got a Seiko extractor? Does it have a dual extracting system? What's it got? And I'm looking at it, I'm like, God, it looks like a stock 700 bolt face. And I'm like, out of a gun that you're spending $3,000 for, I'm like, this is pathetic and sad.
Yeah, I've never shot a Fierce. They're a Utah company, but I've never shot one.
I've never shot a Fierce either. I just know we have a lot of people who come in that want a lightweight hunting rifle. And I'm like, well, lightweight is going to cost money. And everybody thinks they can come in and buy a lightweight hunting rifle for under $1,000. It's not even going to, you can't even buy the Savage 110 ultralight for under $1,000.
That bad boy's in a magnesium chassis, though.
Right, for $3,000, $3,000 to $4,000, yes. But I mean, but what I'm saying is,
that's my target budget for my 7 PRC. Just so you guys know.
and that's a pretty good budget for a custom rifle if you can keep it at that, no problem.
Yep.
That's kind of my target budget for the next, one of the next Magnum.
Okay, so you're steering people 6.5 PRC up to 300 PRC. Now the question is, what are people actually buying?
What are people
what brand
actually
of gun
buying?
And what caliber? Yeah.
So the 300 PRC and the 6.5 Creedmoor are probably my 2 most popular ones I sell.
In which brand?
Either one, both the Savage or the Ruger.
Okay, so Savage and Ruger winning market share here, baby.
Pretty much. We did just get the new Stag arms in, but those are 308s and 6.5 Creedmoors, and I don't know if I want to say I'm happy about them or if I'm disappointed.
Hey, I learned that the other day. Stag Arms makes bolt guns.
Yes.
And they're owned by Aero Precision.
Yeah, they're owned by Aero and Ballistic Advantage.
Yeah.
How do they look? Is it the copy
thing.
of the Aero Action?
Basically.
Is it basically
yeah, it's basically they changed the safety indicator on the top a little bit.
Different color of anodizing.
Probably. It's actually not a bad action, but I've heard of people in the competition scene that's been using them for the last few months, and they're like, we don't know if we should say yay to these or get rid of them. They haven't decided yet for next year. So
okay. So taking this back, Aaron, you basically talked bad about Howa 1500s.
Okay, I'm not talking bad about Howa 1500s. Okay. Howas are great guns. They wanted to grow up and be a Weatherby, but they're not. Just kidding. There's nothing wrong with Howas. I'll let you go here in just a second.
Okay.
Okay, so Howa 1500s are decent guns. They shoot well. We were talking upgrade path.
Yes.
There is not an upgrade path for Howa. There just isn't.
Chassis.
Yeah, there's what, 1, 2, maybe. There's a KRG Bravo.
GRS.
ACC.
A bunch of MDTs.
Is there an
The-
ACC?
Yeah, for the Howa, there is, because I found one on Black Friday.
The
Who wants to put a
Oryx.
Howa in a freaking $1,400 chassis?
Oryx. All the Howas are sub MOA all day long. I mean, like very really accurate guns.
Well, I'm not knocking on the accuracy of a Howa. Howas, they shoot.
Right,
The
so
upgrade path is difficult. Right? The
So-
upgrade path on a Ruger American is much easier than a Howa 1500.
Here's the only thing I don't know about a Howa is if you can upgrade the trigger or not to like a performance trigger for a Howa.
A couple of people have so the stock trigger is very nice out of the box. So the problem with Howa, and I'm going to defend Steven's what's the word I'm looking for? Honor.
Well, he is Mr. Howa out of the group, so.
Ooh, Timney makes one.
So.
Oh, they do that? Okay.
Oh yeah, and I think Jard makes one as well for Howa.
It's not one of Timney's high-end ones, but they do make one.
All right. So you basically brought up the company like Howa wants to be a Weatherby. Well, Howa makes the Vanguard actions, and they used to make the Mark V actions. So yeah, no, Weatherby is a Howa.
I thought it was the other way around, so maybe that's my bad.
No. So Howa is Japanese. The biggest issue I would say with Howa in the United States, the issue is not Howa. The issue is Legacy Sports, who's the importer, who basically controls what comes in, the service, and all of that stuff. So I have 3 Howas, and they all shoot sub MOA. I do have to give Legacy Sports credit because they will try a whole bunch of different variants. There's like 3 different chassis companies that make chassis for Howa that they get partnered in. I think basically the biggest challenge for Howa is Legacy Sports, and they're not being properly marketed, and like they kind of like never really broke out. And part of that, once again, it's Legacy Sports rather than Howa. And Steven, if you want to come on and discuss this, by all means, I sent you the link. It's the same link as before. I'll put it in our Discord.
Before Steven comes on, I'm gonna put my 2 cents in here about Howa. Mr. Wannabe Daddy himself. So I want to, before Steven comes on, I'm going to put my 2 cents in about Howas. The Howa action isn't bad. Okay. The one thing I've seen with Howas is their barrels are shit.
No, that's bullshit. Sorry.
Well, at the 3 Howas I've shot in the last year couldn't hold a fucking MOA group if I wanted to.
That's probably the Indian, not the arrow.
I could probably. Oh. Son of a bitch.
Welcome to the fire.
Hey, you made the Jew jokes.
Well, that's because you keep making the Mormon jokes to him.
I was about to say, you can't say the F word because you'll offend the Jewish population over here.
The F word?
Sorry, it's actually offending the Mormon population.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So guess what? Wooks also makes a Howa 1500 chassis.
Yes.
So we're up to 4 people. Okay. So the upgrade path,
we have APCs. So there's like 3 Australian companies that do
better.
And obviously Boyd's does as well.
Right.
But like I said, I think Steven, like he had another comment here. It's once again, it's lots of upgrades, but poor marketing. Also, Japanese don't like change, like polishing bolts or making a more user-friendly trigger. Yeah, so basically the Howa hack trigger, the HACT trigger, is really nice, but when they come into this country, so like this was, they market it as an adjustable trigger, but the importer, Legacy Sports, put this like white goop on it because they don't want you to adjust the trigger. So it's like that type of stupidity.
Okay, so there is a better upgrade path.
Honestly, if you really had to, I would say if you had to think about it, I think the Howa upgrade path is probably even a little bit better than the Ruger American. Although now you have more Ruger, like for example, like even think about like the chassis options for Ruger American.
Well,
it's
MDT
growing.
just launched the field stock for the Rugers.
Yes.
So
now the other thing that Howa has is they have the mini action, which is, I think, fantastic if you go for a 223 or a 6.5 Grendel, 7.62 by 39, 300 blackout.
oh
I
yeah,
think it's
the mini
fantastic.
action is awesome.
So buy a Defiance Deviant. Sorry, buy a Defiance Mutant or a Lone Peak Medium action.
Yeah, but you can get
Now
a
you
Howa.
can't get it out of the box, but they're still available.
Oh, Howa 1500. I mean, like you can buy it for like 500, 600 bucks. And
But
let's say
here's the
there's-
other thing: are the aftermarket stocks available for the mini action?
Yes, a couple of them. So there's actually a company that makes mini chassis specifically for that company, and like some of the guns that they put out like look fantastic.
Yeah, but you just said one company, right? Like
One
the
company that
upgrade path,
one company that specializes just in the mini actions.
right? But like upgrade path is multiple options for everything, multiple scope bases, multiple triggers, multiple chassis.
Yes.
Like that's a real upgrade path.
Well, the scope
right?
bases they can use 700.
Savage has an established upgrade path. Bagara has one because they're Remington 700. Remington 700 has the most.
Well, here's the thing.
Howa can use Remington 700 split scope bases, and you can actually use a 700 long action on the Howas. On the standard action, it does work. It just overhangs a little bit, and there's plenty of scope bases specifically for the Howa. So keep in mind, the 1500 is also the Weatherby Vanguard, and between the two of them, there's a big amount of aftermarket. I think like EGW. There's like I know like when I go into my locals FFL, they have scope bases, plenty of them hanging just for the Howas as well.
You got Leopold, EGW. You've got Warren. They all make stuff for everybody.
Okay, so I guess I haven't been exposed to the Howa market as much as everything else.
Yeah, they're poorly marketed. I mean, that's really the biggest problem. But I mean, like Howas, I mean, it's like they're really nice. And if you're talking about like before all of these new guns came out, you can get a Howa Oryx, which is a Howa 1500 action with a heavy barrel in an MDT Oryx chassis for about $750. You're not going to find anything better than that, really.
Brownells was doing a massive Howa barreled action sell over Black Friday.
And Brownells does
I almost bought one.
Yeah, Brownells does a bunch of barreled actions. I bought a 6mm Creed barreled action, put it into a Boyd's at one stock, shot it. It was fine. Then took it to my local FFL. It sold like within 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's nothing wrong with the Howa. I wasn't aware as much of the upgrade path.
Yeah.
2 years ago, there was almost no upgrade path on chassis. In the last 2 years, we've seen an explosion of chassis for different inlets.
Yeah. Once
especially with MDT. Like MDT is like on a mission to cover every possibility ever known to man.
Yeah, that's the field stock, James. Yeah, they actually launched that for the Tika T3 also. So
I have something very interesting in my gun safe for the Ruger Americans that I cannot share as I'm under an NDA. So,
I want to say
another Trigger Tech trigger.
I will hold that one. No. No, I actually have a prototype of it.
So another big company that's out there for stocks that does a lot of stuff with Bagaros and the 700 platform just made the announcement a few days ago is Graybow stocks are now doing Savage stocks, which is kind of nice. It's good to see a company like that jump into the game with Savage.
Yeah, so the moral of the story is now all of the major firearms have a great upgrade path. So Derek was right. We needed to start over. Just kidding.
Actually, that's Chris.
Okay. But yeah, so they all have a great upgrade path now. That's awesome. Win for everybody.
Yes. So there's a question earlier. I think James asked the scope basis for the CZ600. So I'm trying to find the question on here. So the CZ600, the Alpha has an integrated scope base because that's an aluminum receiver. So all the aluminum receiver CZ600s have integrated scope base. But The CZ600 Lux and the ones that have the steel receiver, those use Remington 700 bases.
See, still haven't even gotten my hands on a CZ600 yet to even look at one.
Yep. Where did Aaron go?
Oh.
Oh, there he is. Okay. All right. So I'm going to bring on Aaron again, and we have Mr. Bullets for Bucks here to defend Howa's honor.
Okay. Before he starts, guys, I'm gonna jump off. I gotta be at the airport early in the morning. I drop off the wife. But thank you guys for letting me come on. I'll chat with you guys all later. Aaron, I'll give you a call on Tuesday.
Okay.
And
If not,
Steven's trying to
put
figure
your
out his camera.
freaking address in the chat or text it to me, and
I'll
I will
text it to you.
have a handle and a grip waiting for you
Okay.
when you get back.
Okay. Later, guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. All right, Steven.
There he is.
So you educate on the Howas, add more to that. I know you have special experiences working with Howa and can discuss that. I'm going to go take a
I didn't know
quick
Steven was
break.
a special education teacher.
I am special education, pretty much.
There we go. There's the joke. All right, I shall be
4 Thanksgiving dinners in the belly in 4 days.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah. All the fixings 4 times in a row.
You should have 4 of them in one day.
No, I think I would die. I would hemorrhage.
So since we're making the Mormon jokes, right? I'm a Mormon. I served an LDS mission.
y'all talk Howas, and then we're gonna do that. Okay.
I was in Mexico for Christmas, and I had just arrived. Didn't really speak the language. 4 Christmas dinners on one day, and these aren't like little. These are like Thanksgiving style. I almost died. Like my stomach almost exploded. It was crazy. So let's talk Howa.
Yeah. I don't know where you guys went with it because I threw a shirt on. I was in my underwear and ran downstairs and had to get all my streaming gear up just to jump on here. So I'm literally in my underwear. So hopefully the camera doesn't pan down too far below this table.
That's how we're going to get the views up on this channel.
This is how dedicated I am, right? But I don't know where you guys went with it after, because I
so Howa. Okay, so I got educated on the number of aftermarket parts that are actually available, and I started doing some Googles over here. The only thing that's really not available is triggers, lots of scope bases, and now a few years ago there weren't, but now we have a whole bunch of chassis manufacturers making Howa stuff, like Luke's and MDT. And a few that weren't really doing it a couple of years ago. So that's kind of where we ended it. And I have no qualms against the accuracy of Howas. They typically shoot sufficiently well.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of good rifles out there. Howa's not the only one, obviously. I think.
Well, we were really talking upgrade path. Like, what's the easiest rifle that you can buy and upgrade?
Hold on a second. My daughter's coming downstairs in the middle of this. What's going on? It's okay. All right. Well, I'll go right back up there. Go up there. She must have heard me come down here because I ran down the stairs and threw a shirt on. Anyways, what's the upgrade path? Is that what you're just asking?
Well, what we were talking about was the ease of upgrading. So purchasing a standard rifle, the Howa probably lands in what the 800. I don't. How much is a Howa? They land in like the $600 to $800 range.
The strange thing is that so Legacy Sports is the exclusive importer for Howa, or Hoa is how you pronounce it in Japan, but Howa for the United States, other than Weatherby, but Weatherby's agreement is only to import it for the Vanguard, not for the Howa brand in the United States. They're the only 2 people though that can import it. So basically it's Legacy Sports. And so the weird thing is that there's like tons of models out there that range all the way up, I think, to like $2,000 down to like five for the Howa Hogue, which is like their base model. But a lot of people don't even know that most of the models exist. And so, but really it's just barreled actions coming from Japan. And then they're putting them in different stocks and different chassis. That's my Legacy Sports is. And then labeling them different models, variations of the 1500.
So Legacy
So
Sports
there's,
doing that after they arrive.
I believe so. So like, I don't know everything about them. I know like bits and pieces, right? One of these days I'll probably go tour their facility, but that's my understanding. So and that's true with actually like kind of a lot of rifle companies, I think. Or well, I mean, Weatherby in and of itself doesn't really make rifles, but there's a lot of argument over that. But you know, they're assembler, they're a modifier. But people get confused because they think the most people when they think Howa Hogue still, like the cheaper plastic stock, the one that was rubberized on the outside over molded stock. And they don't realize there's like there was the Howa Orcs, the Howa TSPX, the Howa TSPH, the Howa Superlight, the Howa Carbon Elevate, the Howa Stalker, and all these different rifles. But most of them, those are in the last like 5 years. And they just haven't done Legacy Sports, in my opinion, hasn't done the best job marketing these rifles, or maybe it's been uphill battle because you have big box stores, you have places like Sportsman's that they have their shelf space allocated already for Christensen and Bergara and these Antica, and kind of they can only do so much. And so that's so essentially Legacy Sports is putting them in these chassis and these stocks. And Howa, most people don't even realize now, has a barreled action that's carbon fiber barrel. And I have two of them and they shoot phenomenal. And I've asked over and over again who makes the carbon fiber wrapped barrels. They claim Howa makes them. I don't know. That's what they claim. I don't know for sure. But I can tell you that might have been accurate. But the aftermarket support is good on chassis and stocks, I feel like, at this point. Triggers, you can get triggers, but I don't think there's as many options out there as obviously like for Remington 700. Let's see, that's like, I don't actually modify a lot of guns, to be honest. Like, I don't do a lot of aftermarket stuff to guns.
So this was great because somebody asked, actually Buzz asked, but are people really looking at the upgrade paths for most guns? And I would say, maybe it would be nice to know that it's upgradable, but I mean, how many people are actually going to actually upgrade those guns? And I would say very few.
I would argue against that. I would say it's quite a few.
Well, considering you own a retailer that does sell, so maybe your view's a little bit jaded.
So here, I'll give you some statistics here in just a second.
Okay.
If I may, I think that like a lot of people upgrade stocks and chassis, things like that, but not necessarily like they're not necessarily threading barrels, and most guns are coming threaded now anyways, and a lot of Howas are now. I think triggers and stocks and like you can do a trigger job, you can adjust the Howa Hag 2-stage trigger to a degree. After that, you have to trim the spring. You can't get an aftermarket spring, and there are some aftermarket triggers. Me personally, because I've done it so many times, I don't recommend it. Like, I can't liability wise, but I trim the spring, and I've had great results with that, with the Hag 2-stage triggers and the Howas. I have upgraded stocks before. When I first started, I bought a BNC fiberglass stock and upgraded the stock for a Howa before, or I might have just bought the barreled action from Brownells. But yeah, there's so many variations that people just don't know exist right now with Howa, and that's just basically an uphill battle marketing. Uh-oh, you guys still there?
No,
Yeah,
you're
we're still
good.
here.
You're good. You're good.
Okay, yeah, something just opened on my computer, but yeah, I think, but I do tend to buy rifles in mostly the way I want them, and then if I upgrade anything, it's maybe just the trigger, but that's me personally. I do have a Wooks chassis and a Graybow stock and things like that. I really like the Graybow Phoenix too. Graybow sent me 2 of them. I've been really impressed with them. But those are Remington 700 footprint. But yeah, Howa's been making guns forever. They were like Howa Loom Works and Machinery or something. They made guns, I think, for World War One, and then they made guns for World War II. In fact, they still make they make tons and tons of weaponry, but they can't sell it to the Japanese because they have like since World War II. I don't even know what their stipulations are, but like they can't even buy like what we can buy from Howa. And I know they still make fully auto weaponry, and they make like guns for the police forces, and like I think they're definitely more like popular in Asia and Europe than over here, where we just see the bolt action side of them. But they did make the Mark V for Weatherby, and it's funny if you go to Weatherby's showroom, because I live like I don't know 10 minutes from Weatherby. They have the most beautiful Mark V I've ever seen. It's like an all custom Mark V that they presented to the owner as a gift. In like I think the 80s. They made them for actually quite a while, and then they've always made the Vanguard. And it's my belief that they get for the Vanguards that they get barreled actions, and they put the hack 2-stage trigger on, and they call it something else. That's my belief. I can tell you the trigger's identical. The barrel's a Howa barrel, and the action's a Howa action. And like that is without a doubt. But they do call the triggers something else. They do, I think, some extra QC to the trigger, kind of go over it, and they do leave, I think, the residue or the adjustment screw gum off, so you can adjust it easier. And I think they do like some, and they polish and straight flute the bolt, or maybe Howa does. But that's like the Howa bolt is just blued. Whereas when you get a Vanguard, it's straight fluted and then like polished. So it tends to be a little smoother in the receiver. I actually told Legacy Sports they need to polish their bolts and their raceways and make the trigger more user adjustable, like Trigger Tech trigger or something, and their sales would probably go through the roof because you got places like Tika and Bergara that feel better, and feel matters to a consumer who doesn't know better. Like we know it might function the same, but if it doesn't feel the same, they're going to go with what they feel. That's my opinion.
Yeah. All right, and I'm horrible with this, but we do have another fellow gun tuber on, so I'm going to bring Chris on, and he's going to present the voice of reason for the regular common gun owner. So, Chris, thank you for joining us, buddy.
What was all that about?
About
the
what?
voice of reason?
He called
Yes.
you a peasant, is what he
Because,
said.
well, so in our private Discord, you're basically saying
Well,
that,
you
like, we're
know.
nerding out way too much on this stuff. And I'm like, I don't think we're nerding out that much.
Because you're a freaking nerd. You're one of the ones nerding out on it. So, of course, you don't think it's a nerd. Like 99%. Don't get me wrong. I've enjoyed, like, sitting there listening. But my brain is literally cooked. And I'm thinking 99%. Now, let me back that up. I'm going to say probably somewhere in the 70 or 80% of firearm owners could care freaking less about anything you guys are talking about on here. Like, other than listening to you guys nerd out and the passion and the knowledge that you have, which is freaking impressive. I mean, let's be honest. Like, are they ever going to upgrade their crap or do what you're talking about doing? And at the end of the day, I think that's evident by the industry and why the industry doesn't do some of the things that Stephen was just talking about. He was kind of making that point. He's like, I don't know why they don't do this and that and this and this. It's because they're in a market for it. Because most people are just regular people that they want to shoot their deer or cans at 100 yards off of a fence post, or a pig in the face or something, like, and they're good, right? Or buy it and put it in a nightstand. That's the worst of them.
But you know what, though? I think that basically, like, I mean, Aaron, this is essentially why your business exists, because it's going to be gun owners who buy a regular production gun, and then it's like, hey, they're going to want to try to improve it one way or another and be able to do that. And that's why you're selling a whole bunch more cheaper Rugers, cheaper Savages, Howas, instead of PRS production ready guns or things like that.
Yeah, I mean, not like I said at the very beginning of the stream, right? It really depends on what the person's goal and objective is when they go in
Yeah.
to purchase the Black Friday gun, right, or the special, right? If you're going in as a typical gun owner, which unfortunately I don't associate with the typical gun owner very often, I find them highly dangerous, and I find the ranges that they shoot at highly dangerous. Anyways, it really depends, right? A lot of gun owners will go buy that gun and they'll shoot 4 boxes of ammo through it in 20 years, and they'll
Yep.
love every single trigger pull and they'll have good times. Now, Anarchy Outdoors is 7 years old, and we've built the back of our business off of creating very simple but very useful upgrades to those rifles, to those guns. And I was just looking at some of our sales, and we've sold thousands and tens of thousands of Ruger American handles, right, and different things like that. And that product changes the way the gun feels and functions like significantly. But it's also one of those things that you would never know unless you used one that had one on it, which is probably the reason we've been struggling to get them into mom and pop gun shops. But it's also, but I very much agree with a lot of gun owners are going to buy it and they're going to put it in the drawer and they're never going to use it. I had the opportunity this summer to take out my wife's family. They had a family reunion, and I decided to do a shooting event because it was right next to one of my buddy's shooting ranges, and I put on a heck of a little shoot for these are the typical gun owners. They buy it, it goes in the safe, they use it, once a year or whatever, and we had a drag race on dueling trees at 100 yards with 4 $10,000 22s, and it changed their whole perspective on what is actually possible and what you can do, right? So I find that fun. I find taking the average gun owner and blowing their mind with different things, but yeah, I mean, upgrades do happen, and guys like to tinker. Your typical gun owner who's also a tinker, that's Anarchy's market, right? We like guys that like to fit and fiddle with their stuff. And what we have found is we actually have the older generation really seems to like us because one, we answer the phone, and two, they find our products to be extremely helpful for their age group as well. Like some of our grips and our handles and oversized bolt knobs and different things like that. As you get, as they get into their older years, they don't have the motor functionality that they had at one time and different things. So, but yeah,
well, it's not any different than anything else, right? You've got the gearheads out there, right? Like with their cars and stuff. That's the same way. I mean, the average driver, right? They don't care about wheels and tires and high performance and horsepower and torque and all those things, So there's like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just curious. I often hear a lot of things because you'll get people that'll say this too, and not necessarily along the custom lines. And plus, I just like playing devil's advocate sometimes. But you'll hear people that I don't know why X company doesn't do this or X company doesn't do that. And true, there's some real crap companies out there that they don't have their pulse on the market. They're not paying attention. But I've got to believe that the vast majority of companies that at least have been around for a while, right, are paying attention. And so the answer to that's got to be there's no market, right? Either there's no market or there's no market for the cost for what it's going to cost them, right, to R&D, to develop, to tool up, to implement, those sorts of things. But for you specifically, and Anarchy, and I like your explanation that you sort of gave there. where do you think people that are making that transition from they've just got a few firearms and they're not that crazy with upgrades, maybe they don't know what type of performance they can get out of something, they're not concerned with hundredths of an inch, or anything like that in group size. Where do you think they're making that transition? How do you think they make that evolution to then find you guys at Anarchy?
Good question.
It really starts with them finding like a mentor or a group of shooters that is more experienced,
So
and then they
becoming more
started.
involved in the community, basically.
Yeah, more involved in the community,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah, a lot of it is just, especially in the older generation, it's them with their buddies at the range, right? Hey, look what I bought. I don't know how many times I've gotten a call. Yeah, I sent all my buddies over because we all bought the same guns together and different things like that. But for the younger generations is they start dabbling in PRS, or they start dabbling in different things like that, or they're out at the range and they happen to see something on someone else's gun. I don't know how many times I go to the range because no one really knows that we exist in our town. I think we have 100,000 people in our valley that stretches for 40 miles by 20 miles wide or something. And we don't do a lot of advertising locally. We love walk-ins. Feel free to walk in at any time, but it takes a lot of time from my staff to help someone who walks into our shop, right? Versus them fulfilling online orders and other things. But so when I go to the range, it's quite fun to pull out different guns, and I got lots of questions. And then I tell them, "Oh yeah, I'm just down the street." It blows their mind. But I feel like that's where a lot of guys pick it up is they're at the range, they see something that's different, or they're starting to get involved in some of these, different competition groups or at long range shooting type of things. And then good old YouTube, a video lives forever.
Yes.
Unfortunately, right?
I feel like the upgrade market for some of this, it's like similar to cars in a way. Like if somebody's getting a rifle that's mid to budget class, they're more likely to probably buy components to upgrade it. Where if they're buying an Aston Martin, they're probably not going to be doing anything to it. They're like, okay, I got it because it's the way I want it to be, and I'm going to keep it that way. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like a lot of your business comes from like $1,500 guns and under, or $1,000 guns and under, from the Ruger Americans, the Ruger RPRs. I also think like the younger generation's probably looking at things like YouTube, seeing something they want because it looks a certain way, or maybe it functions a little bit, looks cool a little bit. And then the older generation is probably more like, hey, I need this because I think it will function better because I'm getting older and the mobility of my hand might not be the same or something. So I want that bolt knob. I don't know.
Looks are definitely a huge component. Oh my God, looks are so huge, and we often dismiss that. But it's a valuable thing. Like, I was in a conversation not too long ago, and I'm not going to shift things intentionally, except for it's relevant to kind of the conversation of, where people begin and where people end up. But if you've got, let's say the conversation was around, the first handgun, right? The first defensive handgun purchase or whatever. And what are the criteria, that people are going to be looking at, yada, yada. And one of the first things is it has to look good to them, right? Because they're never going to ask somebody behind the counter to take it out of the case to look at it if there's not something that catches their eye, if there's not something that's appealing about it, right? So there's something inherent about that. And people want to laugh and go, oh, it's not about how it looks. It's about how, and there's also a placebo effect. I'll tell another story about how looks can matter. My youngest daughter, of course, most people know I was in youth shooting sports for years, but my youngest daughter was a great example of this. You could literally take her recurve bow, because we did it, and hydro dip it in purple and black zebra stripes, and it would increase our archery scores by 20 points a match, right? Now, should that hydro dipping a bow that has absolutely zero to do with the performance of that bow? I mean, we all agree on that, right?
Absolutely.
So what was it that I don't know? I mean, was she more proud of that bow, and so she paid more attention to the fundamentals with the, you get what I'm going? So
Yes,
the whole
something
idea
added
of looks does
confidence.
matter. Yeah, yeah. So the whole idea of looks does matter. Where some people like to dismiss that, like it can be a plus.
Well, that's the reason I wanted a looks chassis, the looks
Yes.
Furiosa. It's
Yeah.
because of the looks. That's the reason I wanted it. I think the Ruger
Oh, it looks
Precision
good.
the custom caught my eye only because the way it looked. When
Yep.
I was at SHOT Show last time, the only reason I even noticed it or wanted to even talk about it to the rep there was because the way it looked. I mean, I could be like, oh no, that's not why, but I'd be lying. Like that's
Oh, no.
literally why. I was like, oh, that looks cool. That's the red little, was it the red mag release and the red?
Yes,
safety,
it has all the red
Max.
accents. So it's
Yeah.
they finish it in the sniper gray finish, and then they did red trigger guard on that Trigger Tech trigger. They have the red magazine release. You have the red guard, the thing for the rail.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Aaron,
about.
what's the word
I
I'm
don't know
looking
what it's
for?
called.
The barricade stuff.
That barricade stop. Yep.
I took mine off. Gets in the
yeah.
way.
But it's red, and it's
It's red and bright.
It's definitely red. It's definitely bright, and it's a lot of really cool features. I mean, it definitely adds it. I would even say
So
take a look at a company. I would say take a look at a company like Tracked Optics, and I think by far one of the things that makes it stand out is their scopes are finished in that sniper gray finish as well, which is completely different from the vast majority of scopes that are out there. I know, Steven, I know one of the companies you're familiar with, so Maven Optics, they're in your neck of the woods, and even on their website. So they do have a different finish, and then you can customize the colors on some of the scopes. I mean, totally non-functional, but it definitely changes the color and everything on them.
The like the burnt orange color they have on their accent pieces, I
Mhm.
think is really appealing, and it's different. I do disagree a little bit, or maybe it's not disagreement, it might be with Chris though, like on the guns thing, as far as like companies not wanting like to make certain changes. I think it might be just more I haven't specified or clarified. Like I think the reason that how it should change that with the like their models that they sell or legacy sports between like the $600 range and 1,200 is because that's the competition is doing that. So I think they're falling behind in that regard. I think that consumer is going to feel that, like when they feel the trigger, when they feel the bolt right in the receiver. So I think that does make a difference. But I think that they might be purposely not doing it because the Vanguard is polished and fluted, and they might be like, we're selling the Vanguards to Weatherby, that we're going to leave that to them. I do think though that like some companies become big and then it becomes hard for them to make quick changes.
Oh
with
yeah,
Yeah,
that
pivoting
follow the
becomes
market.
difficult.
yeah.
Like
Trying
what
to steer
happened
the
to
Titanic, right? Like it
The
don't work
Remington
too well.
700, I think a lot of their failures are because they just, I mean, we can go, yeah, they were sued, we can go over this or that, but like they didn't keep up and with QC, but they didn't keep up, I don't believe, with little changes in the market, competitive changes,
They also tried to live off their name.
right?
Right. Hey, we've got an established name and we can live off of it.
Well, but
Well, at that time, there's also no competition as well. I mean, it was basically Remington 700 or a Savage Model 10. That's it. It's
I
like
would
if you
break
have
down what, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I was just going to say, I feel like they fell, but like their coatings, people did a little bit. Some companies had better coatings, right? We would joke
Yeah.
that they were rusting tin. Then their trigger, whether it was because the lawsuit or what, became kind of a disaster trigger when it went to the X Mark Pro. I think that's what it was called. And then, their QC fell apart. I of course, I hate on and people are gonna fight with me on this, but the 700, what is it, the ADL, where it doesn't have a floor plate. I'm like, guns in that price range now pretty much all have a hinged floor plate or a detachable magazine. And they're like, well, that's because that's how it's been sold for years. I'm like, well, just because it was sold like that for 30 years doesn't mean it still should be sold like that now. Like with a cheap plastic stock that's worse than a Ruger American, in my opinion. Like it just, and people are like, well, they just don't buy it for the stock, just buy it for the barreled action. I'm like, okay, but you're kind of missing the point. Like they should drop it all together then, in my opinion. Like they're still, just because it worked 20 years ago or 30 years ago, I think it's it's a bad look for them now. But we could go round and round about.
Well, so along those same lines, here's the question. I mean, like, like you're right. I mean, like logically, let's put it this way: when I'm shopping for upgrades, or I'm trying to build a gun in my head, with the exception of my Gucci AR, which I do want it to look cool, the vast majority of the things that I look for is it functional. But when I go to the store to just go browse stuff, basically it's like I don't go there asking, hey, do you have this or that? I'm looking at the shelves to see what looks cool and what sticks out or what's going to be unique and different. So the question is then, we're talking like, okay, one of the big trends we're starting to see. So number one is obviously chassis guns, and number two is carbon fiber barrels. Now, I know, Steven, as a hunter, I'm sure you can definitely chime in and say, yeah, you know what, carbon fiber barrels, they're functional, they save weight. But I'm wondering if these gun companies are starting to put on carbon fiber barrels just because it looks way different than everything else, and you have a lot of surface area on those carbon fiber barrels. They're going to catch people's attentions.
You can also charge a lot more.
Okay.
I think they look cool. I mean, I have friends that think they look hideous, and I don't. That's their opinion, right? I think they look cool. I think functionally, they in the vast majority of situations, even especially for hunting, I think they do almost. There's like almost no real advantage, but I think they look cool because I have tons of them, and I think they look cool. So yeah.
Well, that's the rub too, right? When we're talking about these companies, and that's when why don't they do this or why don't they do that, and there's so many variables, and we can't know all the variables. We can speculate on a lot of different ones, but we don't know which ones are true for which companies. One of the things that I often hear is I'll get people that go, well, I don't understand why this company, and it's a company that I'm really good friends with. So, I mean, I know the answers to these questions, but they'll say, I don't know why so-and-so company doesn't do this, and you'll hear that over and over and over. You'll hear a few dozen people, right? Easily that'll say that. And then, you talk with those companies, and those companies will try that. And then you turn around and you say, hey, they're doing this. And those people that were screaming to the top of their lungs about this company needs to do X, Y, and Z doesn't buy anything. And so that's the problem, is people want to give lip service about you should do this, you should do that, you should do this. But then they're not going to put their money where their mouth is at the end of the day. They just want to see it happen, right? They don't understand that in order for it to happen and that company to continue to stay in business, things have to be profitable.
Right. Well, I think people talk crap about you on your way up, and they talk crap about you on your way down, and everything in between. So it's like, yeah, you should do this, and then you do it, and it's like, well, why
you ain't living right.
Nothing's selling, right? But I think like somebody was talking about earlier about like maybe it was you, Chris, I don't remember, about like the vast majority of gun owners are just buying like cheaper guns basically, and they don't care as long as it shoots a paper plate. Essentially is kind of what you were saying, like hunting. And I think that's true. Like I think that's why the Savage Access videos and sales go through the roof this time of year for several months. I think that's why the videos do well on the Ruger American and Savage, because that's the vast majority of gun owners are just buying that price class of rifle.
Ruger videos in general do very well, and it's got to be the name Ruger, right? Like it's got to be the searchability at the end of the day on the name Ruger. Taurus is another one that Taurus videos do very, very, very well, and it's got to be the name Taurus, and so that tells you that the vast majority of people are doing searches on that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where everything technically comes down. Like I said, I like to mix it up. Do your statement. early about hating on the way up and hating on the way down. If somebody doesn't hate you, you're not doing it right.
Correct.
Like
Well-
mix it up. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not going to agree and on every single thing, and if we don't, that's fine.
Now,
Then
is
whether you're
Anarchy
talking about
Outdoors?
whether you're talking about a company or you're talking about an individual or whatever is what I'm saying.
All right. Has Anarchy Outdoors? Have you? I honestly don't know a ton. Have you guys? What I've seen in the bolt action realm, and in some automatic circles I'm in, is it seems to be a comeback in World War One, World War Two, Korean, Vietnam weaponry. I think I feel like the people that grew up playing Call of Duty are now buying and researching and watching videos. I feel like those videos are really going through the roof. Are there things that your company can sell that would fit that? I feel like it's a trending market right now, or maybe emerging. And I could be completely wrong, but this
Like
is
old
just like
Mausers and stuff, like
well, M1As, M1 Grands, Mini
Yeah.
14s, like this whole mixture. There's like even with Grand Thumb, probably partly because of him, it's brought in even some of this, like tension. Like those videos are doing phenomenal on tons of channels right now, and I even hear like, hey, people are commenting. Like I did a video on M1. I think I'm not good at knowing those rifles, to be honest. It's a weakness of mine. But somebody lent me one. We went together. We did a video on it, and people like all these younger generation people are like, oh, this was Call of Duty, and like all this whole like buzz going on. And then I looked at some guys that do wheel gun videos, and there's like the Red Dead Redemption fans were all commenting. But I feel like there's been a little comeback of some of these classic older guns, and I don't know if there's something that you guys could make that could fulfill needs in those areas. It might be something to look into, but you might not. It might not be worth it from a business standpoint. Or
Yeah, I mean, we can always take a look at it. The hard part, especially when you get into some of the military surplus stuff, like you take the Mosin Nagant, right? The Mosin Nagant was made from 1880 to 1945.
1893.
Yeah, and then same
And
with
way past 1945, they made him into the late 50s, actually.
Yeah, okay, so they made them into the late 50s. They're still used all over the world in military stuff. Same with the Enfield, right? The Enfield started in the late 1800s, so they made it all the way through probably the 50s. It has 4 different variations. The M1 Grand has a variation or 2. I don't know. It'd be something really interesting to take a look into. I don't know. The vintage market is really interesting, and I think you're right. It probably plays a lot to the old World War II Call of Duty video games. I just saw there was one called Isonzo just dropped. It's the Italian front of World War One. And the only reason I know that is because I was just at the Italian front a couple weeks ago for World War One, and I did a lot of reading on Isonzo, and it popped up. So there's a crazy trench warfare in the Alps video game coming out, or it's out. I didn't pay too much attention to it, but
I mean, it definitely has an impact because you look at
it. It definitely does.
Well, like the Colt Pythons, I mean, their prices spiked as soon as they were used on The Walking Dead. As soon as what's his face? Who's the main guy on there? I already forget.
Rick.
But like Rick, as soon as Rick Grimes started using his Colt Python, freaking Colt Python prices shot from like 1,500 to like 25 to 3,000 for a good quality Python. So I'm absolutely not at all surprised that we're coming back to World War II type guns. But here's the thing, though, with the increases in price on those type of firearms, it's like, okay, it's like, well, are you actually gonna go and modify it because it's no longer a $50
Exactly
Mauser
what I was fixing to say.
It's not like a $50 Mauser that you're going to find in the barrel of your local hardware store.
Well, even
These
the
are
Mosins
basically
now are crazy, right?
$400,
Like,
yeah, because
yeah.
of these
And
sanctions.
they were 75
And how many
bucks when I was a
Bubba,
kid.
how many Bubba Mosins have we all seen over the years? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
seriously.
Archangel
oh,
Bubba
goodness.
Stock, baby.
Oh my goodness.
That's
He
not even,
loves
that's
it. He
been kind of
loves it.
nice.
You know what?
What, Max?
I got a buddy that's got a bullpup Mosin.
I mean, why not? They used to be a freaking $75 a piece. You could do whatever the freak you wanted to.
59, yeah.
I have
think-
one Mosin that's in actually really nice shape. It's a 1943, and I bought it for $125, I think.
So
I think one thing
to the
to
mill
note.
serp,
Go ahead.
I agree with you, Max, that I don't know that people are going to spend the kind of money, because one thing about meal serp, I hear people all the time complaining about the prices of meal serp, and I get it. For poor folk, I mean, they're going to complain, and they're always going to complain because, I mean, they're poor folk. But the thing is, where you say it's too much money now, it's not going to go down. So if
Yeah.
you don't buy it now, in 5 years from now and 10 years from now, it's going to be even more expensive. So if you're looking at meal serp, just quit whining and bite the bullet. I mean, don't take food off the table or out of your kids' mouths to do it, but just go
Don't
ahead and
go into
buy it.
debt to do it either.
Yeah, don't put it on a credit card with 28% interest or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's
But
just a
if
gun.
you've got the means and the money and you've saved or whatever, go ahead and buy it. Is it going to hurt? Does it suck? Yeah, but you're going to get your money back in 5 years out of it, if not turn a profit if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean,
But my point to that real quick though was, and you guys may know some companies that are doing this, and I'm going to speak in a generality because I don't want to give anything away that's not supposed to be. But there are some Milsurp remake stuff that I believe that we're going to be seeing on the horizon, maybe in 24. And if we see that, then there might be a market for aftermarket type stuff for sure, because it will be a cheaper price point. And not the collectability
I would
market.
love to see that, and I'd love to have a little foreknowledge of that. So if there's any connections you can make, let me know. But going back to Steven's question, I think if we were to do something in that realm, it would be identifying the parts that are the hardest to find, and then making a new version of that part, with the
Right.
caveat that's saying, hey, you may have to modify this for your exact gun.
Or like,
Or
for
repair,
example, like
you know.
replacement bolt handles, like with knobs already attached into there. Like,
Well,
I
we're
mean-
talking like the clamps for the wood parts and the
interesting.
parts that
Like
rust and
even-
break, right? The parts that have
Yeah.
to be like, you can only like I have an Enfield in the safe that I need. I was going to do it myself, but I really just need to find someone who restores them and send it to them and have them restore it. But it's some of like the metal and stuff, it gets pitted and it's gone. So you need those
Right.
kind of parts. I don't know how
Somebody
a lot of
was-
guys like to keep it original though, so it's really hard to
Right.
like, can I make a modern day part that they're going to put on that? But now if they're going to resurrect them and make modern stuff, I think there's a whole new market there.
But
Yeah,
there's another potential angle here too, and I don't know how, if you've even delved into this or played into this market, but I've got a buddy that does. I mean, if you guys are familiar with valve files and folks out there, and I'm showing my age with valve files probably, but like he's well known in the country, if not the top tier guy for FALs and stuff. Sledgehammer Arms is his place anyway. But he does AK builds. He does all kinds of stuff. Galils. I mean, he's super trusted with all of that. One of the things that he's gotten into, or I say he's gotten into, I mean, he was doing this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, but they've only gotten more expensive. And it's kind of my point, is the trench shotguns and the reproduction parts to basically make a copy, right?
I would buy one.
So I don't know if there. Well, here's my point: is I don't know if there's room in the market somewhere to make parts that you can then put on something to make a copy of something that is a milsurp. But that's a proven concept with those trench shotguns, because even with brand new aftermarket look the same parts, the copies are fetching insane amounts of money. Not near what an original is, but for it to be a stupid pump shotgun, right? Insane amounts of money.
That you could bump fire the crap out of.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna get going soon, but my headphones just went dead. I think one thing to note from a content creation perspective, though, is that Max, I don't know if you're listening, but
Yeah, I am.
when I was doing some research was on these Army surplus guns. If you look at the shorts that are trending big time, if you look at even long form that's starting to trend big time, if you look at their tag words, a lot of it's COD, COD2, and a lot of the comments are referencing, hey, like this is the gun in that game. Hey, that's so cool. And so it's going to be a strategy, which I probably shouldn't have showed my hand, but going into next year, I'm planning on doing some content on stuff like that, which I haven't done really in the past. And it's not my strong suit, but I gotta
I'm
get
waiting for your bayonet training video.
I've done that. I've used bayonets. I've used bayonets in a number of Ruger videos.
I stumbled across a Mark I Enfield sword bayonet in pristine condition, and now I just have to find a Mark I Enfield for it to go on.
Yeah.
But beautiful. I can't wait to see Steven over there with his dummy stabbing. You know what? That's what Grant Thumb's next video needs to be. Stop shooting the dummy. I want to see him stab the dummy. Bayonet practice.
I'm just.
Are you meaning a number one?
For the dummy?
Yeah, sorry, you're right. You're right, Chris. I need a number
Mark
one
III.
Enfield.
Yeah, number one Mark III, probably.
Yep. I have a
Yeah.
Mark IV,
Yeah,
but I need a Mark I. Oh, sorry, a Mark
Yeah.
III.
Mark III, yeah.
If you know
I have
anyone who restores them, I need someone to restore mine. So if we're gonna drop a comment or let me know.
I'm not sure if the guy I'll talk about, Sledgehammer Arms I was talking about. I'm not real sure if he does that or not. I know that it's funny. I had a friend give me a barreled action number one Mark III barreled action that he found in a farmhouse that he bought, in the wall of a farmhouse that he bought, which was really strange. And I couldn't do anything with it. I'm one of these guys that I like the original, right? I don't like Bubba stuff. So it sit here forever and ever and ever. And I'm like, look, if I'm going to bring this old girl back to life, all it is a barreled action. Like, all I can do is sporterize it, right? It's like, there's no way. It's not going to be worth putting back original. And he did help with that. He did a like a brushed stainless Duracoat to the action, cleaned the barrel up, cleaned the action up. He did a lot of work to it, and it looks like a fairly modern hunting rifle now. It's kind of neat, but I don't know. I've never seen him do an infield other than that, but I will definitely ask and see.
Cool.
Yeah, I've been looking for someone because I don't think it'd be a lot of work, but I just don't have time to
Well, he's definitely got that mindset, right? He's a milsurp like nerd, and we're talking about an older dude. He's probably pushing 60 or so now, something like that.
Cool. All right, so we're going to start wrapping this one up, and I want to kind of wrap it up on the topic we discussed before. So today I got my media packet from Hornady for new products and new releases, and obviously the thing that's prime and center is the 22 ARC. So they have new ammo, new bullets for it. Actually, very one full spread on 22 ARC.
Are you gonna write them back and be like, you forgot the barrel and the ammunition?
Well, it's just Hornady. So Chris, I know Aaron, we discussed this. Chris and Steven, not being precision snobs, are you guys actually interested in 22 ARC? And are you going to be looking at guns chambered in 22 ARC in the near future?
Chris, are you going to go?
No and no. Yeah, quick, real quick. No and no.
I haven't researched it. Isn't that sort of kind of, and I could be wrong, to replace 204 Ruger for varmint hunting and really something kind of along, or 22 250 things?
Yeah,
like that?
it's an AR-15 22 250.
Okay.
It's
Are they
6.5
gonna- you
Grundle
think they're
neck
gonna
down to a
make bolt?
6.
You think they're going to make bolt guns, or is there how much better than a 22-250 is it? I haven't really researched it.
I mean, I think you're using half the powder and getting the same performance. And you
As a-
don't
as a
have to use a
22-250.
large frame. 22-250, is it short action or long action? I can't ever remember.
I'd probably. I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. For some reason my internet's cutting in and out, but so like if a company approached me and was like, hey, can you do some content on this? I wouldn't tell them no. I think that if I was to use one out here, it would be for coyote hunting. They just made it legal to use thermal and night vision in Wyoming on public land, so that would be
Nice.
a good fit for something along those lines. But I don't have like a massive interest in it. Like I'm not
Yeah.
going out of my way to dive
So,
into it, if that makes
Based
sense.
on this
22-250 short, by the way.
Yes, I just found that too. Perfect. Thanks, Chris.
Okay, so based on this thing, what they're doing is they are. Well, I guess I can't see it, but what they're doing
Actually,
is they're.
it wasn't too bad. You can't
Okay.
read it, but you can see the graph.
All right, so the graphs that they have are based on velocity, trajectory, and wind drift, and they're comparing it to 22-250 and 224 Valkyrie. So that's basically who we're painting it up right against. And so what they're saying, so based on this chart, we're comparing a 55 grain VMAX 22-250 with a 62 grain ELD VT to 22 arc versus a 60 grain VMAX 224 Valk. So 22-250 at the muzzle is going to have like 3,700 feet per second velocity. This one's going to be right around 32. And the crossover point between 22 arc and 22-250 is right around 250 yards. So apparently past 250 yards, the 22 arc is going to carry more velocity downrange, and across all of it, it's ahead of 224 Valkyrie. So that's interesting one. And then for wind drift, apparently 22 arc is going to have less wind drift than all the others pretty much at all the distances. So pretty
So-
interesting claims.
So my question, in comparison with the 22-250, right? This is getting back to the regular gun people, but I know a lot of people that shoot 22-250. It's a pretty awesome cartridge. It's been around forever, fairly proven. For the vast majority of, I mean, is there a competition purpose behind? I don't know if people are shooting 22-250 in competitions or anything. So,
No,
like
no.
for the regular person, why would they scrap 22-250 and go to something else? It's just
Well,
because they
you can
run
stuff
it in
this
the
into an
AR.
AR-15.
Okay. Do people who normally shoot 22-250 care about stuffing it in an AR-15?
I feel
My-
like this
my-
is like a semi.
It's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's cool.
Varmint gun, like an AR-15 varmint gun with more power.
Yeah,
than
like
a
super high
243.
velocity. Yeah. What
Yeah.
were the velocities on it, Max?
So basically, it's 3,200 feet per second for 22 arc versus right around 3,750 to 3,800 feet per second with
So not quite the
22-250.
barrel burner. Yeah.
But
not
actually,
quite
so the
barrel
reason
burner.
why it bleeds off energy faster, so we're comparing a 55 grain for the 22-250 versus a 62 grain 22 arc.
But we're
So I'm,
talking about
like-
closed barrel system too, right? Or is that velocities from?
That's basically velocities from. I'm sure we're comparing the exact same ones. I would
I think
hope.
It'd make a good coyote gun out west. Sounds like
Yeah,
like
I
a good
mean-
AR coyote gun.
It kicks the crap out of the 224 Valkyrie.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think I think it makes a great coyote gun out west. I also think they designed it so it can shoot light and heavy bullets at the same time. What I actually find more interesting is if we'll see that VT bullet in a 223 load. because that
So
VT bullet,
actually, hold on.
that VT bullet, have you guys seen what it does to ballistic gel? Dude, it explodes. Like, talk about thumping a coyote.
But it's
That
part of that
bullet.
because of the velocity.
No, it's
So-
it's the way they designed it. It literally is designed to explode. It
Alright, so-
fragments like crazy.
From Hornady's marketing material. So we're gonna have it loaded for 22 arc, 6 arc, 6 Creed, 6.5 Grendel, and 6.5 Creedmoor. So new ELDBT bullet designed using state-of-the-art technology. This bullet boasts exceptional aerodynamics. It's guaranteed high velocity retention, minimal wind deflection, and reduced weight, resulting in an ultra-flat trajectories and rapid expansion. So it does everything you want and more. Whether you're seeking to outwit varmints or aiming for victory on the competition stage, this bullet's design will provide ultimate precision and performance. So that's for the
Says Hornady.
V match. It's the Hornady ELD VT bullet.
See,
Of course,
if they're-
Hornady could usually back their claims up
Problem
pretty
is it's-
good. That's one thing about Hornady.
Okay, so here's the bullet itself. Sorry. So the VT bullet, precision perfected, born from a culminated, blah 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 blah. ELD VT pairs aerodynamics of low drag match bullets with lighter weight of varmint bullets, giving ELD VT a level uncompromised performance. Rapid fragmentation, so it isn't about hitting the bullseye, it's about making a statement when it gets there. Upon impact, the polymer tip dives rearward into the bullet core, causing rapid expansion and dramatic fragmentation, even at low velocities.
yeah, when you watch that hit the gel, it's mind blowing. So I'm
problem I
interested
see
if
is-
they're gonna load that in 6 arc. If they're gonna load that bullet in a 6 arc case, how comparable is it against the 22 arc? Because
So
I happen
six-
just to buy a 6 arc barrel.
So 6 arc, I think, hold on, I think they had it actually listed here for 6 arc. Okay, so 6 arc, it's going to be an 80 grain ELD VT versus a 62 grain.
That'll be a mean bullet.
Well, if you want a mean barrel burner, we're loading the V match in same bullet, 80 grain in a 6 Creed.
I mean, that replaces the need for a 22 Creedmoor. Literally. No, that is a 22
Yeah,
Creedmoor.
that is basically,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, Hornady said they were going to make 22 Creedmoor factory ammo.
Oh,
That's exactly what that is. That's 22 Creedmoor.
well,
Eight,
no, so
800
this-
rounds, baby.
All right. Well,
All right. So on that fun note, we are gonna wrap this one up. I know Steven has to go. It is getting fairly late on here, and freaking people are watching on Rumble and Odyssey, and like this is just nuts. So I appreciate everyone. Actually, we are gonna keep streaming to Rumble. I did get it into the workflow, so we'll do that. So Chris, this has been a really, really good one. I do appreciate it. Hope everyone has the rest of a good holiday weekend, although tomorrow is shopping for Cyber Monday. I'm going to put Aaron on the spot. Are you running any Cyber Monday sales that people should be aware of?
Yeah, we're running. Do I know what we're doing? No. We are running a Cyber Monday sale. It will be different than the Black Friday sale. If he'd have given me a little bit more warning, I'd have gone and looked it up. Or I can go look it up. But we are running that. There was one question in the comments saying, what is ship times like for Anarchy? Typically, if you order before noon, it's same day. We get it shipped out. We let our staff not work since Wednesday. So we'll probably spend all of next week digging out of Black Friday orders. So if you ordered before or early on in Black Friday madness, your order is at the top of the list. So we're going to work our way from first come, first server, but it probably take us 3 or 4 days to dig out of the hole that we're in.
Very cool.
So,
all right. So, Steven, Chris, why don't you tell us where people can find you and any other parting messages, and then we will wrap up.
oh, well, you can find me at bulletsforbucks.com or Bullets for Bucks on YouTube, pretty much everywhere else as well. If you want to save 20% on Numa Outdoors hunting camo clothing, use the promo code Bullets for Bucks.
And what is your discount? What's your Black Friday sale for your OnlyFans page?
I don't have one of those, but
It's Bucks and Undies or something. I saw it in the chat.
That's
no,
not
bullets
true.
are
You
bu-
told us
bullets are
earlier
bucks.
you
I
didn't
think
even
are
have
good
any
things
pants
to turn
on,
off.
so don't even
Turn
lie
it
to
off.
us,
I
man.
don't. I have underwear on right now. I ran down here and.
Oh, that's
saw
what it was. It's Bucks and Undies.
He was doing
Yeah.
his OnlyFans
Gosh,
when
here we
we
go.
got caught
Shows
on the
me how
live stream.
loyal I am here, trying to get on old SlavGuns live stream, running down here and turn this stuff on.
I know, because you don't want to do your own live stream.
I
He
didn't
was
even have
busy
a shirt
doing a
on
different
tonight.
live stream.
I didn't even have a shirt on. I was like, what the heck? Howa? Shoot,
They're paying you to defend them.
not really. I wish. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day. All right. And Mr. Clovertech?
I'm just upset, but you ended up dragging me into a nerdy conversation about 22-250 now. It's like, God. I
You're
was complaining
welcome.
about all the nerdiness, and you drug me right smack in the middle of it for whatever reason. So
Well,
thanks for
so
that.
here's the thing.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate your feedback on there, and I wanted to bring you guys on because Aaron, like, I mean, like, I do think, like, I think, like, people, like, we're passionate about our hobbies, and we absolutely sometimes, like, hyper focus on things that just might not be that important to the vast majority of gun owners. And
Yeah.
it's like what might seem like, and here's the thing though, like, and I think a lot of like more and more we're cognizant of it, but I mean, we hate the word influencers, but we definitely have influence thanks to the audiences that watch us, and companies
Right.
do reach out to us. And sometimes it's like we do have to keep in mind, it's like, okay, well, we do have an audience, but maybe is that audience representative of a whole? And our recommendations do carry weight with these manufacturers. So this is why getting
True.
the
Yeah.
audience feedback is important, and but also like kind of keeping it sane. But hopefully the good companies, what we're doing is we're not just taking our feedback, we're talking to other people and then putting it all into their pile and coming up with good recommendations.
Well, there's nothing wrong with. I mean, we all kind of have our own lane and do our own thing. Some of us are, you kind of have a little tight knit circle that you run in the same way with me, right? I got kind of a tight knit circle I run in, but we don't really run in each other's circles necessarily, right? So that's one of the other cool things about it is we can kind of hang out and talk and have fun and that sort of thing. Even though we don't have quite as much as far as our likes and preferences and stuff in the firearm world. They differ is what I'm saying. Even though they differ, we can still hang out and have fun and have the
Absolutely.
conversations, which is cool.
Yep. Well, I think the biggest thing for gun owners is like, and the audience, look, be open minded. Just because like you're
Yeah.
not into, let's say, precision 22s, you're not into like lever guns or hunting guns. If you're a gun guy, you're going to be open to it, and you're going to want to love to try a bunch of different stuff. And I think that's the beauty. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's how we're going to grow and secure gun rights for the future. It's not by having somebody like, oh, well, I just care about my shotguns, or I only care about my F-class rifle, and like nothing else exists outside of there. It's like, so when, let's say, even the modern sporting rifles or ARs get attacked, it's like, well, the shotgun guys and the bolt guns, we all need to get behind it, because today it might be this, a different date might be something different. So
it's interesting that you say that. Years ago, and it's because I like the revolvers and the shotguns and the lever guns and stuff like that. I kind of adopted the whole FUD moniker. I'm like, okay, I'll be King FUD. I don't mind. And that kind of turned into a whole FUD life thing. And it's along the lines of what you're talking about. Like, people can be, can love their AR-15s, but that's all they love, and that's all you love and care about, and you don't care about any other legislation about any other thing, right? How does that help with our fight for the Second Amendment? You know what I mean? Or if all you care about is your bolt action, or all you care about is your shotgun, or all you, like you say, all you care about is specialty cartridges or 1911s or whatever it might be, right? I guess what I'm saying is FUDs can come in all types of shapes and sizes. And so part of me starting the project was kind of exactly what you said, to bring light that we do need to kind of be open-minded and realize that there is a lot of reasons to be a firearm owner. And from simply the Second Amendment grants me It protects the inalienable right for me to have them, all the way down to self-defense, to self-preservation, to competition, for fun, for hunting, for whatever. Right. Um, that's a beautiful thing, and I think as long as we recognize that, respect it to an extent, even though we
Yep.
might not want to partake of the hunting or the competition or whatever. Just understand that other people, that's their passion. Uh, Heck, we're better off for it.
Absolutely. So awesome parting words. Thank you everybody for joining us on this Sunday evening. Make sure you get your awesome patches on our website. And as always, we will see you guys same time, same place next week. Good night.